I always say this to people, 'cause I every time I ask an atheist or meet an atheist, I say, oh, what religion did you grow up in? 100% of the time, they laugh. It's like, oh my gosh, Russian Orthodox. And then I go, what? I go, that'll do it. And then they go, oh yeah, hardcore Southern Baptist. And I go, that'll do it. They're like, oh yeah, Lutheranism. Yeah, as soon as I got out, I'm like, that'll do it. And as soon as they get out, they just run from it because, when in essence they're saying, you people were mean to me. God isn't real.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
Poof, gone. They blame everything on God. And, and that just didn't happen with me. So I was like, why not? I'm not in control of this. I'm not like, this is not some grand intellectual pursuit of mine. I'm just trying to get through my life.
Right.
And I'm like, why am I fighting for this? Why is it sticking to me? And then I was like, must be real.
Welcome to another episode of Two Dudes, One God Pod. Trey and Pat here today with Aaron Hinds, an amazing artist, a super interesting guy, and I think that this is going to be one of the better episodes. I'm looking forward to getting going. So, Aaron, tell us who Aaron Hinds is.
That's a lot of pressure.
You're an artist. You know all about pressure.
That's true. That's true. It's a little bit, 'cause you can't release something until you're happy with it.
Yeah.
I'll just go, I guess I'll start at the beginning. I grew up here in Tyler. I had a really interesting upbringing. The old man was sort of a psychopath, or still is, I guess. He's in prison somewhere, because he's just a crazy man. And I grew up, that made me grow up very fast because you had to manage this. You had to manage Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and you did not know who, when, where, it was just going to be, like I always tell people the first time I knew I was about to die, I was like 9 years old. Sitting there in the bed. The old man's at the foot of the bed, rifle in hand, screaming at mom, pretending to be drunk. Not even drunk. Whoa. Pretending to be drunk.
Whoa, wow.
Didn't even drink. He was that crazy. But, just to scare everybody, mom standing there like as usual. And I grew up with 4 sisters. I'm the only boy, so that was interesting. I know more about women than I probably should.
That's why you're single.
There he is. Very single all the time. But no, it ended up he was like, so he figured he'd tell me to close my eyes, right? And in all of his genius, the toilet in that room had always flooded, and he meant to drill holes so it would drain. So he goes over there, sneaks over there, and shoots 4 holes in the saddle where the door meets the bathroom. So not only would it scare the crap out of his entire family, but it would solve this drainage problem. And I remember with my eyes closed, I'm like, this is it. He's always wanted to kill me. He saw The Shining once, and it freaked him out because it had that was a big old mirror. Jack Nicholson. I was raised by Jack Nicholson.
Wow.
Like he came home, snatched me out of bed and was just sobbing and inconsolable. I'm like, this dude is going to kill me one of these days. And that was the day. I'm like, this is it. I literally felt bullets tear through my torso. I was like, your mind can do some really crazy things.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was a rifle shot, it was very close in a room, very loud. And I was like, I'm like, contorting. And then I'm like,
it's not me.
Yeah. I open my eyes and he's got this, crazy wry smile. Fix the drainage problem.
What the heck,
and I'm
dude?
like, you crazy bastard. But, for that reason, I was just, troubled kid growing up. And I didn't do school. I was like, yeah, y'all do school.
Yeah.
I'll be over here, and for that reason, they put me in special ed, which was awesome because those were like my people, I was, I didn't want to, the teachers was very one-on-one. They knew how to handle sort of a recluse, and I was dyslexic too. I didn't read so good robotically, and I got in fights, and it was just madness.
What school was this at? Here in Tyler?
Gary Elementary.
Gary, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Shout out to Miss Mathis and Miss Cooper. They wrangled this kid that, I was a wild kid. It was wild, because, I even figured out I could draw really well, and that affected my surroundings. So I would draw blood and guts and demons that would haul my parents in, I could get them in trouble until I got caught enough beatings for it. It was like, no more drawing evil. We were raised in the church, we were like that perfect family that there was something wrong with, and we would always bounce around, the old man would soon enough have problems with the pastor, Bible thump at him, and you said this, but the scripture says this. And then all of a sudden we're not welcome anymore, and we're trying out a new church.
Yeah.
So it kind of made me kind of the invisible person here, and then all of a sudden he got real radical and remarried, and she homeschooled. So at the 6th grade, I was going to Hog. I went to Hog for 1 year, and then homeschooling sounds great initially because you're like, oh, I don't have to go to school anymore.
Yeah.
But then one day you wake up and you go, oh no, I live at school.
Yes.
This is even worse. Not only that is I have to teach my younger siblings, and it wasn't like your stepmom who I couldn't stand, teaching you. They walk up to you and thump, a stack of books and have fun with 7th grade,
What year is this, you think?
This was 1989, 1980.
Wow.
Yeah, I experienced the 80s fully,
You were fully
I saw
80s, baby.
the first MTV ads when that lady comes down, plops down the TV and smashes it, and I was like, sweet, what is this?
That's awesome.
It's awesome. And it's like, you mean it's all just videos? And it was a mashup. It was so crazy. I remember the first commercials for the internet. It was the IBM. They're all staring at this computer, and computers didn't mean much to us. It was just data entry and mainframe and stuff. And, and this guy's staring at the computer. Super boring commercial, but you're drawn in by it. It was an IBM commercial, and all of a sudden people start huddling around the guy. And finally somebody goes, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm surfing. And that was the end of the IBM, the internet. We're all like, what in the world is this?
Dang, that's wild.
Yeah. But it was right at the end of it, right whenever the grunge movement was happening. I got yanked from society,
Yeah.
And they hand you a stack of books and here's the seventh grade, and after you get done with the 7th grade, here's another stack of books, and it's the 8th grade.
Yeah. How many grades did you homeschool for?
I finished high school immediately. Like it did do something to my I was a non-existent student, but then when the onus was on me, and I was like, I have to get out of here as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And they made it tough. We moved to Oklahoma. It was on 157 acres. It was just this terrible farm where everything died. The old man didn't know how to farm a ranch. He bought a bunch of cows and sheep and rabbits.
Just turned a mouse.
Yeah, we had a barn. I had to fix this where I learned carpentry. I had to work on that barn, and it just I was the slave. He went to work. I had to freaking work.
Oh, wow.
I was his worker, and I had to kill everything. I was a Grim Reaper. It was just it's the worst when you're just we're having a rabbit stew, go out and kill one of the rabbits. And your sister's like, don't make it Snowball. Don't kill Snowball.
Shouldn't have named it.
Yeah, I was like, you guys can't stop naming these rabbits. We're eating them. There's only one way to kill a rabbit. You hold it up by its hind leg and you smash its skull with something.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know if I'm a particularly sensitive person, but yeah, that did something to me,
Yeah.
You got to shoot sheep and cows in the head and bury them. And
I think we've lost our relationship with our food sources.
oh, dude,
So,
we really have.
Like when I was a kid, my uncle had a big farm in Plainview, and so they grew milo and potatoes and corn and. And then they had a little half-acre garden that was just for them. And it was a huge farm,
Wow.
And I clearly remember like getting ready for dinner, and they're like, "Well, hey, go out and get 7 or 8 ears of corn," and like we just go rip them right off the plant. They had the silk in them, and the little bugs crawling on them, and like the corn that I've gotten the rest of my life has never tasted like that corn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was before, that wasn't GMO, and then I think in the end when they were folding things up, they were growing like GMO Milo and GMO cotton and stuff. But
oh yeah, we almost hybridized wheat out of existence in the 40s until we found King Tut's tomb. We found original wheat. We're like, oh sweet,
Thank God. Take
we
them
can
seeds.
make bread again.
Yeah.
well, that's a whole nother deal. Like a year or two ago, we bought some bread, and then like 3 weeks later, I was like, hey, we never ate that bread. It's probably bad. I went to throw it away.
Still
and
good.
there was nothing wrong with it.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to Google simple white bread recipe. So I did, and we made a loaf of bread. And like a day and a half later, it was molding. So I kept making a loaf of bread every day, and my family started eating a loaf of bread every day and almost a stick of butter every day, family of 4. And we all lost substantial weight.
Really?
I lost
Yeah.
like 10 pounds in the first month.
Wow.
And I went, maybe there's something here. And then I started listening to Jordan Peterson and his daughter. And I was like, I think I'm done eating all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I went to carnivore, and then I lost like 45 pounds.
Wow.
And now I'm eating whatever, and I'm fat again.
Well, it's like you almost can't. We've been sold down the river by the FDA and all of these alphabet companies that bring us food. There's only like 3 companies in the entire world that bring the world food. It's like, and they just got rid of that red dye. Shout out to RFK.
Yeah.
My sister works in the hospital organization. She said that they're throwing away all the Jell-O and they're treating it like a hazmat thing. They're putting it in special,
Already, huh?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
they,
dude, that's awesome.
they give people cancer stuff that causes cancer, like in the hospital. Like that's how wretched it's gotten. It's just a
Well,
business, and we don't trust them anymore. That's why we don't trust y'all no more.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. If you think about like a hotel, if a hotel's 80% occupancy, that's pretty good, but it'd be better if it was 90. So like, what do? To increase occupancy, they lower the rates. They do little specials. They're like, the hospital's job is to be occupied so that they can bill for every room and every inch of that hospital.
Scary.
So what is their job to do? I mean, if you're hospital management, your job's not to send
Make people
everybody
sicker.
home and
Yeah.
get people well. Your job is to turn patients as fast as possible and keep the hospital full.
And if that industry is actually linked to the food industry and the pharma industry, we got major problems.
I think it's all linked back to oil, and that's linked back to international banking. And I'm not talking about like Bank of America. I'm talking about international banks that loan money to banks, that loan money to governments.
Yeah.
right.
So all of that happened. If you read the creature from Jekyll Island, it'll talk about the formation of the Federal Reserve Bank and how that stuff works, and some history on money. But the Rothschilds and a few other families all got together, these world superpowers, what I call like the puppet masters, the people that select the presidents, probably.
Yeah.
And all of that goes back. I mean, Rockefeller changed modern medicine because he went in and said, hey guys, we're gonna fund these medical schools. They took out what doctor training formerly was, and now all these medications are a petroleum product.
Petroleum based.
And so, if somebody has high blood pressure, they put them on a pill that's essentially synthetic sodium, and they tell everybody, don't eat salt. Salt is bad for cholesterol, blood pressure, all these things. And then they prescribe them a statin, or they prescribe them lisinopril, or whatever it is,
insane.
And then once you take that, well, then you got to take another medicine because that medicine is going to have some side effects, and then you're taking 3 and then 4.
You have to go to a holistic specialist. I had a medical issue, like little problem. It was insane. It was just like I started having hives regularly, and I went to a holistic doctor, and she said, do this, this, and this. Your immune system's shot. And I went to the doctor, and he was like, here's a pill. I was like, I've seen that advertised on TV. They say it like helps you out in 2 or 3 days. I want to know why this is happening and to make it stop. And he's like 30 years old. I'm like 20 years older than this kid. He's like, why are you asking me that?
That's
it
a
was
weird
so
question.
Strange. They're like, where are you from?
This is your problem. Here's the solution.
Yeah.
It's like, but what caused the problem?
All they do is just, prescribe a pill. That's why, they had to turn off the medical division at IBM. Watson was getting too good. Mm-hmm. He was threatening the entire medical industry and the schools. But now, most doctors have a chat GPT or have a AI just so they don't screw up, because they screw up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, medical errors kill more people every year than car wrecks or guns,
Yeah.
Well, here's something else I've wanted to talk about on the podcast. I want to get your take on this.
Right.
I believe that the industry that has the poorest customer service of any industry that I've, dealt with in the last decade is the pharmacy.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been to a pharmacy that, had good customer service, unless it was a small mom and pop. Shout out to Majors across the street, you know what I mean, from Wilderness, solid place. But CVS, Walgreens.
It can't be a fun job.
No.
I mean, it can't be.
Well, it was a fun job. It was one of my first jobs.
Oh, really?
I worked at Jason's Deli for a little bit, but I couldn't memorize the menu, so they made me bus tables. And then my dad planned a ski trip, so he made me quit.
All right.
So because I was like, "Hey guys, I need off for this week." They're like, "You're fired." I was like, "Okay." Okay. But then he was buddies with Greg Major, and so I got a job delivering prescription medication to mostly nursing homes and stuff.
Yeah.
But that was a thing. The PT Cruiser had just come out. I don't know what year this is, 2002 or something. And so I would just smoke weed and drive around in a brand new PT Cruiser, which felt like a minivan when you got in it. I don't know if you've ever been in one. Mm-hmm. It's like a minivan layout. It was pretty fun, dude. I'd get high and I'd go to a nursing home and people would be rolling up to me in wheelchairs to be like, "Help me, get me out of here." And I was so terrified, I was like, "Oh no." I was probably hallucinating. And then I would get into whoever Reginald's room, I'm like, "Here's your medicine for Majors." And he's like, "Did I tell you about the time I stormed the beaches of Normandy?" I'm like, "No, but I'm down, bro. Tell me." I'll just sit down.
About it.
They were so much more they were so tougher than us.
I would get back to the store. They'd be like, "You were gone for 3 hours." I'm like, "Sorry."
Customer service. Just trying to.
Yeah, but no customer service today. Every time I go to the pharmacy, there's a line outside in the drive-thru. There's a line inside. Nobody, people get up there. They're like, "Well, it's not ready yet. You can wait. It'll be an hour."
It's another industry that's going to be automated immediately. There won't be. People think AI means the end of all blue-collar jobs. It's mostly white-collar jobs. I mean, we're talking anesthesiologists.
Yeah, AI can't lay
people.
bricks.
Yeah. It can though. It's scary.
I've seen those 3D printed homes.
Masons, y'all watch out. I mean, you can't find a mason anywhere, but they have machines that'll lay that sucker brick by brick, glue those suckers together, and it's done.
I talked to a guy the other day that's a contractor. He builds houses. Yeah. And he goes, I'm from Oregon or somewhere, He's like, he just recently moved a year or two ago. And he said, "Dude, y'all don't have any roofing trucks here." I'm like, "Yeah, we do. Everybody's got a big truck that says roofing something on it." He goes, No. Like in Oregon, you drive up to the roofing supply place and they load this truck that has a conveyor belt on it with all your, shingles. And then they drive that truck up to the house and they raise the conveyor belt and they just go, and
spit it up.
They're like, "Here, dudes just put them on their back and climb ladders, He's like, "What in the world?" And he goes, "Dude, I talked to somebody at one of the supply houses, and all of the supply houses in the East Texas area have joined hands and just decided not to buy this extremely expensive truck."
Wow.
So nobody has it. So there's no competition there. It's people used to think that Green Acres stopped, Tyler from going wet. And it wasn't Green Acres. It wasn't Green Acres. It was the liquor stores that built these Taj Mahal liquor stores on the county lines.
Yeah.
Oh,
they didn't want the competition of being able to go to the corner store and buy a beer.
You could raise the prices for it.
Because when I was in high school, I was driving down to Fat Dogs getting 40 of Bud Ice for $1. And I could drink 10 of those, And now I don't know what they are.
Yeah, I don't either.
But anyway, we've gotten way sidetracked, I think. But what... I'm excited about the administration, and I don't want to talk about politics, but some of this stuff's exciting. But I've got a buddy that has a master's in chemistry. He's an attorney, and he works for the patent office and does intellectual property stuff, phone screens, all kinds of stuff like that, right? Really interesting stuff. But he's been working remote for years. Mm-hmm. Well, like day one, Trump got in there, signed an executive order. He gets an email. It's like, hey, you're going to have to come back to D.C.
What?
You know?
I agree.
So, like,
Well,
some of that stuff is maybe good, but some of the stuff is maybe bad. You know, it's like sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, you know? Like,
a lot of times, a lot of people say that patent law actually stifles productivity. It stifles innovation.
I agree with that.
It comes from the way back before Britannia was one country. Whenever they invented the plow, you know, that whatever serf somewhere invented this way to till your thing, and everybody started using it. Well, the lords started fighting amongst each other. So you can't use that unless you pay me, and they started patent law. That's why open sourcing has been such a revolution, and that's what is going to ultimately win the AI race. We're not even at AGI. There's AI, AGI, and ASI. It's past just artificial intelligence. They're calling it AGI as an artificial general intelligence, where it knows a little something about everything. Okay. So I think that's what deep search is. That China just came out with, and the ultimate is a sentient, self-aware entity.
Okay.
Well, like what we have
artificial
now
sentient
isn't so much artificial intelligence. It's more like an encyclopedia that can search itself or something. You know,
right?
Like it
just
can't
mirrors what
through.
we are. You know, we are a consciousness that is part of a spectrum that has a source. You know. We believe it is the God of the Bible. We believe it's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the source of this spectrum that all life is on. And AI isn't just the thing is it.
I think it's a copy.
It is a copy because it's not a biological consciousness.
Right.
I actually, this is random, but I wrote an update to Pilgrim's Progress. I wrote a sci-fi version of Pilgrim's Progress. Have you ever heard of Pilgrim's Progress? It's 15th century Christian sci-fi. John Bunyan wrote it. It's wild. It's a wild book. You should definitely. I read it when I was a kid, and it always impressed me. But I set the main character. His name is Christian. 6,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
During that. Writing that, I was trying to just absolutely swiftly destroy evolution, the idea, the ridiculous idea that is, you know, the religion. It's not a theory.
It's a religion within
not
itself.
a theory anymore.
Yeah, you have to have faith to believe
it has
in that.
no basis in reality or anywhere. First of all, its main crux is time, and I came to understand that time is only made up by humanity. It's just our
It's
mark.
not recordable by anyone else.
No, it's just how we mark change.
Yeah.
And that's what I read. Right in the middle of writing this book, I was like, my science is strong enough. I need to like sweep the leg. You know, this is going to take too long. I need something that's like a stab to the heart.
Yeah.
You know, and so I read something. I was searching for, you know, books that were way above my intellectual capacity. You know, I'm like, what's the tip of the spear? What's the hardcore book that, you know, the scientists are freaking out? And it came back, The Grand Biocentric Design by Robert Lanza. And I was like, he put the word design in his science book.
Wow.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
How you going to get around that, Mr. Lanza? And it was just, he didn't sidestep it. He went all the way for it. He was like, listen, you know, you cannot base these things on time because the time is not real.
Yeah.
The official scientific definition of time is the time it takes that an ion in your brain moves from your ocular nerve into your nervous center before the onset of a thought.
Yeah.
But that's only changing of positions of this certain ion. It's still
Right.
the same thing as if you say, oh, it's night and day, and that's how we perceive time. But it's just changing the position of the sun relative to almost everything. And then that's what gave me the kill shot, because that's what the religion of evolution depends on his time. If you say 300 years of a single-celled organism turned into a man, that would be ludicrous.
Yeah, that would
if
be
you say
insane.
3 eons, see what it is. The idea of God is outside of human scale to imagine.
Yeah.
We can't imagine it.
Yeah.
We can't imagine God, and so they had to compete. They took out this unimaginable image of God and supplanted it with a time scale that is unimaginable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they couldn't understand. And I guess the problem is what I understand as science is repeatable observations.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like this is like high school level science. Science is the study of change and matter and whatever and all this stuff. Well, like you do experiments at lab in high school and college and it's measurable, recordable, repeatable.
And the most famous recordable experiment is the double slit experiment, when we found out
The
light
particles
travel as
Bro, you
But
said that to
I've
me
seen
like
it.
2 days
I've seen
ago.
it.
But the craziest part about that day wasn't that. The craziest part about that day is when they learned, going back to Robert Lanza's The Grand Biocentric Design, he says matter is completely dependent upon biological consciousness.
Yeah.
If there was no biological consciousness, matter would revert back to its super state of pure energy.
Yeah.
So as those scientists are like, look, there's this thing, so there's a particle sometimes and a wave sometimes, but it only turned it from its wave state, which is a super state of quantum foam, they call it, into a piece of photonic matter.
Yeah.
Was when they observed it.
Yep.
They looked
is
at
crazy.
it, and then it collapsed.
Yeah.
And then they went away, and
it kept doing
And they
it.
even put like scramblers on it to where they put the scientists in different rooms, and they couldn't read the data, and it remained in its super state.
Yeah.
It took the scramblers off. The scientists read it in another room, and it reverted, and it turned into a particle.
And so how do they see that and then also believe that God's not real?
It is completely ignored.
But that's what they do, right? So they went, hey, this doesn't make sense because we can't observe it.
Yeah.
So they just made up some other stuff, and then they went,
they tell a partial story is what
there's a
it
lot
is.
of stuff missing, and they know it,
Yeah.
and they go, well, but that's just, we know
Einstein
that.
referred to it as the spooky action in the distance. Like, this is something we just can't talk about because it screams of design. Mm-hmm. Whenever Mr. Miller and Mr. Ursel, shocked pond water in 1953, hoping it would come alive, nothing happened.
Yeah.
But they got a Nobel Peace Prize anyway, $1 million apiece, and now they're in textbooks.
Yeah. And it's all following the money, essentially.
You're exactly right. Mr. Vanderbilt, who was like, why am I so rich? And everybody else is such a little scumbag, dirt and streets.
Yeah.
It's like, it's got to be something scientific. We got this guy.
So
Darwin, he might help you out.
So what I'm hearing,
like, fund him immediately and put him in schools.
So what I'm hearing, Mr. Homeschool.
I'm outnumbered now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was homeschooled too.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll say this. I went to public school, but my mom was also a teacher.
Okay.
So a lot of things I did learn at home.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
it's all about your ability. When do you kickstart a kid? It's like first of all, life is an education. Your education is 100% on you.
Yeah.
And that's no more acute than homeschooling, because you're like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
You want to tell me I can
quick.
breeze through this as quick as possible?
Yeah.
Even though I was kept on the farm until I was like 19, I basically had to escape to college.
Wow.
Well, like, think about the education you had, doing things that maybe felt like chores or, slave work, but like you still learn things.
Oh, it made me tough as nails, made me no nonsense.
Learned a
I
trade.
can do stuff. I learned a trade. Yeah. Follow society on top of the food chain.
Yeah,
me and the doctors and the hunters.
That's it.
Hunters, carpenters, electricians, mechanics.
And salespeople.
Yeah.
So you basically escaped at 19, and then you went to college.
Went to Eastern Oklahoma State, just to get in, because I never thought about going to college, but I was like, I can get out of here.
Yeah.
This is the old way the old man would kind of, allow it, but and I did what I wanted to go to art school. And he's like, "Can't be an artist. What are you talking about? You know, what are you, gay?" And I'm like, I have no idea. No, I'm not gay. I don't even know what that means. He told me, I was like, "Oh, ew, no." Yeah. But it's just, I studied horticultural science, and that's where I got into all the plants and science, and that's the first time I learned that how they do carbon dating, and I was like, because I learned creation versus evolution and evolution at the same time. Yeah. In sixth grade, whenever I went out of public school, I was taught evolution. Then I went to homeschool, and then all these books, all this
Bible
evidence.
Stuff. Yeah,
and it was like real, like hardcore science, and I was like, and that intrigued me, and it always kind of hit me. But yeah, carbon-14 only exists whenever sunlight skips off the atmosphere at the edges of this ball that we're on, strikes carbon-16 because that's its stable state, and it falls to the earth. Only 20 pounds of it falls annually. It's not even in everything. What they're doing is they're testing lead, how long a lead isotope turns from a particle of lead into a particle of argon gas. Now, the discrepancy in years is like a carbon-14 will expire 357 years as that half-life, but lead takes 5,700 years for it to decay and change states. So I was like that, and every time I ask a scientist about that, they do get mad and they do walk away. I've ruined. I've taken to task a few professors. If you just ask why and how enough times, they will run out of answers, and they get mad at you, and then they give you low grades,
and then they call you ignorant.
Yeah. But then after I got out of Oklahoma State, and I remember we were the old man just mentioned A&M, and he was like, "Yeah, you can't really get into a big school like A&M." So I took my tiny little truck that my stepdad, Steve Zacks, who's awesome, bought me, and I drove all the way down, applied to A&M, drove all the way back, didn't tell him. I got a letter. And it was one of those classic moments. I just walked up to him with the letter. I didn't even open it. I was like, "Open that."
Tell me something.
Yeah, and he's like, "What is this?" I was like, "Find out." I didn't talk to him like that, of course. He would freaking knock you out.
Right.
He would smack the, So I'm like, "Open it." And then I was like, "You've been accepted at A&M." I'm like, "I am out. I'm finally out." And I had to placate him. I'm studying landscape architecture, so that I can be a part of the family business whenever I get out, because he had this crazy idea he was going to be a nursery, after the farm did not work out and everything died. We were going to be a nursery. But I finally got out of there and reconnected with Mom and my stepdad. And my stepdad kind of normalized me. But I didn't. A&M, what made me realize that I am going to be an artist was when we did a study abroad program funded by good old Steve Zacks. He didn't even have to. He's my stepdad. I never even lived with him, but he's just that kind of guy. He's just a cool guy. Sent me to Italy, and that's where I learned how to paint from Italian master Paolo Borraceri.
What?
And I was like his student. He would yell at me. He would have this whole studio, and he'd be walking around. First of all, my studio is like 1,000-year-old stone former monastery. So I'm drinking in art, I walking in the steps of Da Vinci and Michelangelo, just walking around where they walked around. It was just insane.
That's nuts.
And he'd be like, He's like, "I don't." He'd get to my painting. He'd walk by other, everybody else would be like, yeah, and. He'd walk by my canvas and be like, "Oh, I don't know. No, you're choking her. You're killing her. You don't breathe. It's too much. You paint right off it. Stand up. Say my, all over the cha. You just go crazy." And because he noticed that I was in the studio, I had drawn and done some painting, but for some reason just being there, that year and just drinking that in and just seeing all of them. When I saw the Sistine Chapel, I was like, this is where perspective was invented.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know it, but the most famous thing about the Mona Lisa is not her, it's what's behind her.
It's the background.
Is the first perspective that anybody's seen commercially, because Da Vinci used to haunt Michelangelo and debate with him openly all the time. They had crazy, and I'm getting this from Italian professors. They have a very strong, oral, and they know stories that aren't in textbooks. So the story is that on the front wall of the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo paints the perspective, which is a crowd of souls going back into the canvas, whereas before it would go up. It would be the Byzantium army coming in, and it would just, how they paint up instead of back. And he's like, I did it. He called her Lady Prospectiva and ran out in the streets in Florence. I found her, Lady Prospectiva. Come look. Yeah. And Da Vinci, of course, would have been nearby because he set up a studio everywhere Michelangelo went. He was a stalker. But he was so brilliant, but he was so intimidated by this gruff, little, devout, grouchy artist. Michelangelo, they were so different, Michelangelo was always in his shop clothes, and Da Vinci's just flamboyantly gay in these, all these robes, and and sure enough, they say Da Vinci definitely peeked in there. It was like, oh my God, he did it, and ran over to his studio and was like, who's the next portrait on my roster? And his assistant would have been Lisa Fitzgerald. Get her in here right now. And Lisa Fitzgerald was an aristocratic woman from a textiles magnate from Ireland, and aristocratic women in Florence, they would call them Madonnas, or Monas for short. So she would call them Lisa. So it's literally like what's behind her. Yeah, and everybody was, that would have just blown away that culture at the time.
So were you given like projects to draw, to paint? I mean, what was that?
It was all still life.
Was it all stuff that he dictated to you?
Yeah, okay. No, then that's what his point was. Like, I would do the still life, the apple next to the bowl, and then I'd spend all night making it disappear and behind all this crazy madness, and but he was like, no, you have to show the extreme near and the extreme far in the same painting. You have to, have the most extreme light and the most extreme darkness. He said, painting is 5 things. It's color, it's contrast, it's shape, it's form, and it's composition, and he taught me those things. I felt like I got a crash course, just because it takes a long time. I wish I would have taken more art. I probably do need to take more art classes, but that's when I realized that I'm not going to be a landscape architect. I'm going to be a painter, and as soon as I get home, I'm going to move. Or I didn't know what I was going to do. I had like a really nice apprenticeship downtown Dallas, one of the biggest engineering firms. Like, the career was out in front of me. I mean, I was going to be, I actually am one of the reasons that Frisco exists.
No way.
Yes, during my internships, he was always could not sell these plans to those farmers, and I'm like, it's not pretty. It looks boring. Like, you can't see anything. I was like, let the kid in here, like. Let the intern make this thing beautiful. I can draw it, showing him I'll draw I'll make this look beautiful, Wow. I did 1-point perspectives of all the common areas and all the just all the amenities and stuff, and it sold the next week, and then Frisco happened.
Wow.
And so I had this.
We need to add that to the Frisco, Texas, Wikipedia page.
Absolutely.
Aaron Hinds.
Designed. Actually was the catalyst for Frisco, Texas.
Give you a key to the city or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, I was actually going to do that, I was going to go that, but I think I always see this as a rough time in my life. It was just probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. At the end of college, I had this professor that had been on sabbatical, and he didn't have us for any of his studios, and he was dreaded. He was just this evil little man. And he hated the fact that there was going to be a graduating class at A&M that he didn't have to go through the crucible of Dr. Michael Murphy, you know, and he would skulk around at night and watch us work because they called it the Langford Hotel. It was labor intensive. We were not on computers. We were in drafting, you know, like you had a cot under your desk, a coffee maker. Like we'd stay, you know, it was called Langford Architectural Building, but, you know, the students know it as the Langford Hotel because it's just brutal. And it was a brutal program, but I made it all the way through, and I had Dr. Michael Murphy for an exit course, a 2-hour exit course. And I've got hundreds of college credits by this point. 2-hour office. And the class is called Office Ethics, right? And he had cornered me before, like, because we goof off, you know, we're trying to have fun. We're half delirious, trying to get our projects done and he told me one time, he's like, Hinds, you're a goof off. And he was like, goof offs don't get degrees from A&M. And I'm like, whatever, you know, I just kind of like brushed him off. And, you know, I have a little bit of culpability here. I should have ducked my head and just like beseech the guy, you know, but I was immature. I was a punk, and I was a punk to him, you know, especially whenever he made that, you know, cryptic thing. Like, I didn't know about tenure laws. I didn't know about people have serious power and they will exercise it on you because they don't like you.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was tough. I thought I was streetwise, you know, but no. It was, we were graduating day. All my family's there, including my father, who told me, you know, something bad is going to happen to you because you disobeyed me. You know, like, he's the kind of guy that's like, God will kill you if you disobey.
Right.
You know, so he's there, and he's, you know, it's the first time he's meeting my stepdad, Steve. And I remember as a kid following Steve around with my dad with a pistol. You know, we followed Steve around.
Yeah.
Like, he debated hard whether or not just to shoot him, and he wanted me there.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know what the deal was, but Steve came close to death a few times. It was just, yeah, the man was unstable, you know. Right. So now they're meeting at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And they call my name, right? I walk across the stage, just this big vindicating moment. I'm trying to show my brothers and sisters, it's okay. Go out on your own. You don't have to do everything. You know, you can have your own life. God will not smite you. Yeah. You know, and then all of a sudden we all get back to our seats, and everybody's pulling out their degrees and diplomas. I get a letter. And it's from my admissions. Like, everything went blurry, and it just hit me. I was like, Murphy. He made good. And I'm trying to like I'm quivering, you know, and like, as it turns out, he gave me a perpetually standing incomplete just so I could not get a degree. Yeah. But I was like, it was all crashing down. I was like, the old man was right. Wow. I am being smote by God. And then I'm like, no. You know, so all these things. So everybody's taking pictures, and I'm like, you know, and finally we get to the restaurant, and everybody's there, and I'm like, we're having a celebration. A lot of graduating people are there, huge table. And I call him Richard. Like I wanted to show them the college because I was like, just swallow this, just don't tell them. You know, I want to show my younger brothers and sisters. I had 2 stepbrothers, and a stepsister, and I wanted to, and all my other sisters. I wanted to show them around the campus. You know, just show them where I've been for the past 4 years. Because once you leave the compound, the Hinds compound, you get excommunicated and talked bad about. Yeah. You know, and I wasn't about to tell them the situation, even though I was losing it. And he decided he was going to leave right after dinner, not show that, you know, he's going to come down there, watch me graduate, eat dinner. And I was like, Richard, I called him by his first name, and he gets in my face, you know. This is where usually that I get tore up, but then this time I was like, okay, this is it, old man. Like, you are about to die. Yeah. You're about to be just pummeled. You know, you may take one move, I'm going to destroy you right here at T-Bone Jones. This is the hottest steakhouse in College Station. And he just about-faced, and like all my friends are there. They don't know me. They don't know my shot.
With the background.
Kind of, yeah. So here I'm nose to nose with my old man, just cussing at him, and he just leaves, and I'm chirping at him. And I'm like, I can't believe, I'm just calling him all this stuff. And, I walk back in, and, a good old Steve just calms it down, gets everybody there, just saves me,
Right.
But it still didn't stop the fact that I had just been delivered one of the biggest blows I've ever had in my life. And of course I go and apologize to, Murphy, and he's like, he's loving it. He's like, you will never. I was like, what if I take your class again? You take my class 5 times.
And you'll never.
He's like, people like you don't get degrees from A&M.
Wow.
And I'm like, I interned at Hewitt's, always one of the biggest engineering firms in Dallas. I mean, this is a dream job for a landscape architect. And he's like, you're a goof off.
Yeah.
He he loved it. And I started thinking seriously dark thoughts, I had a pistol.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I have to move away,
Yep.
far away.
Put some distance.
Put some serious distance. I was going to move to Paris because, that's where all the great, Van Gogh was like, I'm going to be an artist. I got to, every major artist moves to Paris.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, going to Paris. And I'd already been to Paris. I loved it. It's a great town,
So you went to Paris?
Yeah, I went.
What?
during the study abroad program, we hit a bunch of major cities, and
right.
Paris
Okay,
is freaking
Got you.
awesome. I've been there a couple times. So Mom was like, "No," and I was like, "All right, how's New York?" And she's like, "That's better."
Oh, okay.
And New York was a total blast. It was a revelation. It's just. I like to say that's the city that happens to you.
Yeah.
Like, I got into the fashion industry immediately. Like, all of a sudden, I am rocking the runways in Milan and Paris. And I'm about to be signed as a freaking model in Cape Town, in Tokyo. And, like, that was the craziest 2 years of my life.
Yeah.
I was in a Jean-Paul Gaultier show in Paris, and they dressed me up like Marilyn Manson.
What?
I could not move. Right before I went on, like, Jean-Paul Gaultier is awesome. Like, that dude is, like, not only is he a good designer, but he is funny as hell.
Yeah.
And he loved me because I was just I was East Texas,
Yeah.
And he just, East Texas and Paris.
I will say,
Loved it.
whenever East Texans go
Anywhere,
we always stand out.
It's a get out of jail free card.
Everybody just, literally.
Because we're nice,
yeah.
but we're not gonna, we're not gonna.
Yeah,
I remember walking
exactly.
down the street. There's, they go, they say, watch yourself, don't be anywhere alone, and they'll steal your shoes. And these guys pull off, and they're all talking French. Oh, fong, 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 fong. I'm drunk. I pull out this bottle of wine. I was like, somebody, y'all might get me. One of y'all is going to hospital.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get one of y'all. I'm gonna break this bottle on one of y'all, and then I'm gonna get you with the bro. I'm gonna get 2 of y'all.
Yeah.
And whenever you start talking country, it freaks out everybody in the entire, including New Yorkers. Like, New Yorkers,
Really?
Oh, yeah.
get freaked out whenever like they think, like, they know
They've
you're
heard
from,
Country Boy.
Yeah, they know you're from the South, but then you get real country and you start asking them questions like, are you messing with me right now? I thought we were having a
Don't make me
conversation.
call my cousin Bobby.
Yeah, I will slap a man.
Yeah.
I have slapped a man. And man slapping is one of the best things that has ever happened.
I've never been in handcuffs, but have you been in the ICU?
I have been in handcuffs a few times, but
I've been there
it's for
too.
dumb stuff,
Yeah.
dumb. It was part of the man slapping incident.
Oh.
Some dude would not leave my
In
apartment.
Paris?
No, it was when I lived in New York. I got this guy as a roommate, and he just decided he was going to stop paying rent. He was going to squat in my room. And I was like, no, you're not. And he starts quoting his IQ to me, and I slapped the fire out of him. Pow! And the definition of man slapping is when you slap a man and you don't take a defensive position.
Yeah.
Like, you stand there like, okay,
Get
that
out.
was a warning.
Yeah.
Next thing is ass whooping.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so, like, he chirped up twice. I had hit him twice. I gave him a real good backhand. Knuckles were involved. He dropped to a knee, and then I was like, all right, this is where I'm from. this is over. I'm gonna take you to your room, and I'm going to rearrange your face. Like, remember, remember, look at yourself in the mirror mentally, because it's over. It's different. It's gonna be different.
Yeah.
And that freaked him out. And I snatched his neck real hard, and I put his arm behind him and marched him to his room and stood him up tall, and I faked at him, and he fainted, or faked fainted. It was so weird. I've never seen somebody do that. He was so terrified, and then he called the cops, and I went to jail. They walked in there like, they didn't even ask me any questions. New York, do not mess with freaking NYPD. They walk in, they go, right, who has a complaint? He's like, oh, he's this British guy, he was like British and Australian. He had the weirdest accent, but he had lived in both, and it affected his speech. But they were like, sir, are you hurt? Do you need an ambulance? He's like, no, but he's hitting me. And, and they're like, no, sir, are you hurt? Do you need an ambulance? While they're nodding yes. And he goes, oh, well, yes, I do. I need an ambulance. And then they turn to me and goes, put your hands behind your back. I go, are you serious? And he goes, are you resisting? This huge smile on his face, like, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it was a brother too. It was a black dude. Was like, I love to slam your white ass onto your own floor. Like, he was excited.
That is fun.
And I was like, no, sir. And he was like, all disappointed. Like, oh, man. So I locked my, they put the cuffs on me. Another time we were smoking. We were supposed to go smoking a J, and these three cops get out of an undercover car, and they're like, sorry about this, but we're going to take you to jail because Beanie here wants to get his quota. They had a new partner from Boston, and they were just ragging on him the whole time. They're like, Beanie here wants to arrest you guys for a joint, And we were like, oh, we're supposed to go skiing. They're like, oh, no. Beanie's got you now. And he's like, just not saying anything, just shaking his head like, oh, why did I transfer to New York?
How long were you in New York for?
I was there for 13 years. I kind of had a 5-year plan, but it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
I was in a rock band for about 8 years. I sang and wrote the lyrics. I couldn't believe I was around musicians. Like, musicians are like this cool group that, I would have never thought that I would be in the middle of.
Yeah.
But it was a blast. I had savants. We were just one guitarist, one bassist, drummer, and everybody was really, really good. And I had started writing songs because I wanted to. Songs are the inverse of a painting. A painting, you write a story in someone's head with a visual. A song, you have words that you paint inside someone's head. And I was experimenting with writing songs and sitting at the bar, of course, and a few friends were like, yeah, all right, well, we've got a bassist, drummer. Now all we need is a singer. And I was
Let's do it.
I was like, I can sing.
I got you.
They're like, let's go right now. It's like, it's 4 a.m. They're like, studio now.
Okay.
You got songs in your head? It's like, yeah, I got songs. And it just jumped out. I mean, it just immediately songs.
Yeah.
We wrote like 4 songs immediately, and I was like, this is awesome. And everybody's like, this is great. We're gonna start booking shows immediately.
Yeah.
My first show was at CBGB's.
Wow.
No joke.
I could not believe it. Somebody had canceled. One of our buddies knew somebody, so we kind of got in on the sideways, but still, it was our first show.
Yeah.
And my band was like, you're going to be able to handle it? You need to sing on the subway. I'm like, I'm not singing on the freaking
Is this in the 90s?
No, this is in 2000s.
Okay.
I moved there in 2001 and was front and center for 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I worked in the World Trade Centers. I knew an oil broker in Houston. I was like, I need a job in New York. He's like, you want to be on the floor of the Mercantile Exchange? I'm like, sure, what's that? He's like, that's how all goods move into this country. It's going to be wild. You'll love it.
Yeah.
So it's like, the NYMEX building was on the last building on the marina, right at the foot of those towers, and our offices were in another building. I was a clerk, and you pick up brokers, and you take care of the people that stand in the ring and shout all these, orders, and it's chicken scratch, and you got to make sure. And it was insane. It was like the tribes, everybody was a tribe, like where they wanted to know what your history name was. And, Hinds sounds like a Mick, it was like, but, it was all like tribal, and it was just so cool. One day I had picked up a broker, his giant New Yorker named King, and he would scream in your face, if you were late with stuff. And, so I was late for work that day. Like, the alarm didn't go off. It had never done that before or after, and it was blinking. It's like, and I'm just like, got out of bed. I take the E train all the way down there, and I've got visions of King screaming in my face, and get off the train, and boom! Everybody froze, and we were like, what was that? In 1998, it had been bombed, so everybody's running and screaming, and cops are telling you, get back on the train. I'm like, I'm not getting on the train. There's bombs going off. I'm sprinting for the door. I'm bypassing the cops, and I get up, and there's like office papers just floating around. Just stuff falling, and we're like, luckily the plaza was full of live oaks. And I ducked into those live oaks and stay away from debris. And I had finally got up far enough and turned around and witnessed the giant hole in the building. And then soon enough, we heard all these screams from the west side, like a roar of people. I'd never heard anything like it. Like you're outside of a stadium and a big play happens and a scream. It was like that. And people saw another plane going real low up the Hudson, and all of a sudden we see the plane and it's banking, and we're shoulder to shoulder. Hundreds and hundreds of people. We're all like, no. Because before, you get out there and we're all like, what happened? People are yelling. We were like ants. Our little antennas were like, what happened? It was a missile. It was a bomb. It was a passenger plane. And we're all like, oh, what a horrible, tragedy. Some drunk pilot, and like, and all of a sudden it's
number two.
Yeah. And it smashes in there, and I swear I feel the heat. And I was like, nope, I'm out.
Yep.
Bounce, gone. Like, I'm fast. Like, I actually walked on at A&M, made it past 3 cuts. But no, I was gone. But when I turned around, it was people jumping to their deaths and so I could not watch that. That was the worst thing I've ever seen, like people jumping to their deaths, and you could hear it from so far away.
My cousin is a stage manager, I think is right. And God, if he hears this, I hope I don't mess it up. But he's worked for on and off Broadway productions, Radio City Music Hall, Rockettes, and like these are the guys like behind the scenes with a mic in their ear with the boards, and they're like 3 seconds.
People that make it happen.
You go. And now I think he does a lot of work for Apple and Google, like when they do big events and product launches and stuff.
But stage.
He was in New York at the time, and we had been out in 2000. So my family went in the summer, like September, right before school started or something, and went up the Trade Center and toured a bunch of stuff in New York, and he got us into like Phantom of the Opera, like 6 seats.
It's a great show.
Got us in to see like Blue Man
Broadway
Group.
Is awesome, man. If you go to New York and you don't see Broadway, you missed it.
Dude, it was just, dude, there's something about knowing people, And this is a thing that I think my dad really beat into me. It's not what you know, it's who you know and how hard you work.
A lot of the cases, it's time.
It's just a connection. And being able to go and see those things because an insider left tickets for us.
Yeah. Nice.
Was so cool. I just remember like reflecting later after, like on the 12th or something. I was like, dude, I was just there. I was just there. It was a real place that I've been. And then, we didn't have the internet really, not really then.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't have smartphones.
Not what it is today.
And so, like, I'm watching this crappy 480i picture on my 32-inch cathode ray tube TV at home. And I'm like, looking at the Pentagon, and I'm like, but where's the plane?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the plane?
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about it because I had just been there. I was a high school student. I had just seen that whole plaza. I had been to the towers.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theories didn't even exist yet then. You know what I mean? Like the internet wasn't there, and like the people I talked to didn't matter, and I was just a kid,
Right.
Yeah. Like we look back on it in hindsight, and I'm like, what?
I decided I just can't won't make up my mind because it's too close to me. You know, that would make me hate my country. I can't even for my mind's sake.
Yeah, because that's a personal
go
thing.
There. Yeah, I just like I can't believe that the American government had. I don't know. It's just too much. That was probably the first time I'd ever gotten through that story without freaking welling up. Having to.
I mean, I
take
appreciate
a pause.
I read a book 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even know the name of the book, so I'm sorry. But the premise of this book, it was all these letters and wires and stuff. This guy did all this research about how the federal government knew that the Pearl Harbor attack was coming.
Yep.
And they didn't do nothing. They moved some of the fleet out.
That's true.
And so
well, I mean, some say they were just, it could have been a crazy coincidence, but yeah, they didn't get our all important aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make up.
But then last night? A passenger American Airlines plane hit a Black Hawk helicopter.
It's too congested
in DC.
It's one of the first international airports on American soil, so it's too small.
Very congested.
It's just too congested. The military, if they need to do their drills, they need to do that at the base.
Yeah.
It can't be messing. It can't be dodging in and out of the most congested airport in America.
Yeah.
Well, air traffic controlling is like one of the most fascinating professions.
They cut the budgets, Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying to say, but what if there's somebody that got in there because they checked a box and they're not the best at it,
Well, that brings up a fantastic topic. And I'm with you on that.
Like, I don't terrifying.
Get it. I don't get it.
It's the soft bigotry of low expectations. Yeah. Oh, since you have a mental deficiency, we're going to make sure you have a job, or you're missing an arm, or you're this color, or you're this gender.
Dude, I grew up flying. I flew all the time as a kid.
Really?
And my grandparents could just be at the gate and pick me up when I got there. And I could take a toy cap gun with me on the plane, and you didn't have to go through 15 machines that probably give you cancer on the way and wait in some stupid line. And some person in a polyester outfit wasn't like, hey, that's an open water bottle. You got to throw it away.
Yeah.
Why do I have to throw it away? Well, it could have explosives in it. Well, where do you want me to put it? In this trash can next to 6,000 other people?
Yeah.
Perfect.
What's that going to tell you?
Yeah. So like none of these things make sense. The government names things and then it does the opposite of what the name says.
Yeah.
All the time, every time. So look at have you done any economics studying, broken glass theory, Austrian economics, stuff like this, Milton Friedman,
Milton.
So I get super sideways on this stuff because it's not like politics. It's like a misunderstanding of economics. So when you talk about DEI, you talk about they want equality of outcome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the same people that believe in the Big Bang, that don't believe in a creation story or a higher power or a God, the same people that believe in evolution, which doesn't even make sense because when you mutate, you lose information.
Yes.
You don't gain information.
Yeah.
So the people that believe this stuff that I think that I read I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, and I thought it was a fantastic book. I don't know if y'all have read it, but it gets into the idea that to believe that God doesn't exist takes more faith than to believe that God does exist. So the people that believe that, they also think that you should just be able to give people jobs that they're incapable of doing. And then that should be
California's
okay.
burning.
Well, and I saw another post today. Somebody was like, well, Trump didn't turn water on for California. They just fixed the federal pumps or something. I'm like, whatever.
Oh, they didn't. They supplanted the forestry majors with activists that are animal and insect riot. Somebody.
Yeah, hey, don't clean up the undergrowth.
The blue butt beetle's there. What about the blue butt beetle? I made that up, but it's something like that. Yeah, they want. Like Trump made a good point. Everywhere else, forest nations don't suffer from this because they have dudes that practice forestry.
I mean, I know Australia has wildfires every year for the exact same reason.
Oh, yeah.
They don't go in, they don't clean the underbrush.
Well,
and on top of that, the stuff that's just burned, they don't back cut it.
Yeah.
They won't go and clear the stuff that is pretty much like a match if it gets hot enough.
We used to do that on the farm in Oklahoma. To control burns, you cleaned up all. It was an understanding amongst neighbors that you kept your acreage park-like.
Yeah,
and once a year we're all going to get together and burn these fields. I remember tying a piece of tire that was on fire to a string and dragging it through a field.
Yep.
When I lived in northern Arizona, we would go in the summer. The landscaping jobs would get advertised, and I needed work, and I was like, I can mow yards. Well, it didn't occur to me that nobody has a yard.
Yeah.
So I signed up for it, and I was part of a crew of a small business operation. Some dude owned it, and he was there working with me.
Right.
And I got in the truck with him, and we drove an hour up into this mountainous area. And all we did was clear this little plant, like a knee-high, thorny, hardwood bush with chainsaws and hands. And I wore a T-shirt. No, they were wearing long-sleeve shirts. It's the summertime. I'm like, y'all are crazy. It's going to be 112 degrees.
Yeah.
They're all wearing long sleeves. Dude, I got my arms just shredded.
Yeah.
In million-dollar, multi-million-dollar homes. All you do is clear that stuff. So it's we've just given up on common sense because it feels better. Mm-hmm. But you can't make decisions based on feelings.
I think it's an actual, I truly believe that Marxism has once again tried to rear its ugly head, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
It worked on Europe. Mm-hmm. Marx said, you turn the taboo into sacred, and the sacred into racist. If you can do that to a society, you'll crush them.
And what one generation puts up with, the next one embraces.
Yeah.
And so we've watched that year over year slowly.
Right.
My wife told me the other day, she was like, I was on Obama's campaigns twice, and and she's on a journey towards faith now. And
I voted for old Biz Mackey back in the day.
Hey, look, I listened to his first inauguration speech, and I
like,
thought, well, if he does this stuff, it'll be all right.
Yeah, I wanted the wars to end, and McCain was like, "We're gonna go to war." And I was like, "Nah."
Well,
but then Obama, he did not stop war.
No,
he enriched Iran. I was like,
he killed people. He killed people and got a Nobel Peace Prize for it.
Dropped the most bombs out of any president.
But she looks at it and she goes, "Well,
deported the most people.
What the left was fighting for was we wanted gay people to be able to get married and have the same legal rights that straight people had." And she's like, they got that. What are they still doing? So then they just moved the goalpost, and now it's even farther to the left. Farther to the left.
Like I said, all these movements.
Now they want to neuter boys and spay girls and
absolute barbarism.
They want to cut boobs off of 13-year-old girls, and then they want the government, which is people. The government can't pay for anything because they get they don't create value. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They take money from us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, look, I don't want my tax dollars doing that.
Mm-mm. Yeah. No.
So
I think that's why I love Doge, man. They're uncovering new pork barrel programs every day. I think we're spending $50 million a year to send condoms to Gaza.
Yeah.
And what they do is they fill them with helium and strap a bomb to them and float them over there. I'm like, this is so asinine, and that is just a drop in the bucket. So I'm having a good time, and I will admit, January 6th, I had a little bit of a smile on my face. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think not because we were not experiencing a peaceful transition of power. First of all, I call shenanigans on that whole thing. If I was up in front of Congress and they asked me that, I'd be like, hell no, I call shenanigans.
Yep.
And so I think the reason they freaked them out so bad is it reminded them, oh yeah, anytime they want, they can walk in here and tell us to go
and
home.
Be legal.
Yeah. And be like, put down your pencils, leave your phone and your computers, go home and get a job. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, we used to tar and feather politicians that were caught in crutch and make them walk home. If you were from Virginia, you had a long walk with tar and feathers all over you. There needs to be some.
They weren't career politicians. If we look at the founding fathers and the several 10, 15
Joe Biden
presidents,
is the thing they were scared of. They're an absolute crime syndicate.
Washington was like, "Hey, I'm done. I want to go back to my farm." These guys would serve for a few years, and then they'd go, "Okay, well, I've got a business to run."
Yeah.
Let somebody else.
Needs me.
That's not the case anymore. What we've found is with this ruling class is that they can make whatever law they want, but then they exempt themselves from it.
Yeah.
So where's the moral authority there? There isn't. And the problem is, I think, I want to know what you think about this, Aaron, but I think that our country was founded on principles that work well with a Christian populace, but work terrible with a...
They wouldn't even get off the boat. They got over here and sat on the boat for a month arguing, and we have to have some type of idea of how everybody's going to act.
Yep.
They came up with the Mayflower Con. If I was a sailor, I'd be like, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me!
Been on this for 7
Freaking
months.
Puritans want to have a piece of paper. Tell me how to act." Because they're Christian. I'd have swam for it, but it was absolutely founded on Christian principles, and it's well documented that even that set of values that are set forth by the elders by the writers of the Bible is just a good way to have a foundation for society. New Hampshire was actually founded as the first socialist experiment in America. It was Lord Hampshire over in England was like, I'm gonna build a town in America. I'm going to send all these prosperous families there. He's picked 300 families, and he's like, everybody's going to be assigned tasks to do. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to grow, you're going to be a brick mason, and everybody is going to get along. We're going to build each other's houses. He put everything perfect. And it descended into madness immediately.
Yep.
There's a little thing called the 10% rule. 10% of any group is basically 50%. A scumbag, And inversely, 10% of the group will do all the work. So there's you can look it up on the internet. There's drawings of it. There's just naked, drunk people in the street fighting. This New Hampshire was a failed experiment.
Have you heard of the Peter Principle? The Peter Principle is this sociologist or economist or something.
Talking about the Pareto distribution. Okay.
This guy, his last name was Peter.
Okay.
But he wrote a book in. The essence of it is that you get promoted or you graduate in your chosen career path until you reach a level of incompetence, and then you stay at that level for the remainder of your career.
That sounds terrible.
So it's like this idea that, when you're dealing with an organization and you're like, I want to talk to the supervisor, like there's a high likelihood that the supervisor is less competent than the first line employee that you talk to.
Yeah, more than likely.
And I've definitely experienced that. Like I've been in positions and I'm like, hey, look, I understand you want to talk to the supervisor because you're mad about this, but they don't even understand how I turned my computer on.
Yeah.
Like they're just here. They're here to tell me that I was late or whatever.
Right. They're just the managerial class.
And so, the DEI people, like they want equality of outcome, but they're not picking the best person.
Yeah.
Right, for the job.
You get a heart surgeon. Do you want him to be there
but if you
him
did
or her to be there because they're the best, or
well, think about this. Like, say you're like a fantastic mechanic. You're really gifted at working on cars, and you get a job at a mechanic shop, and then people start bringing their cars in. They just never stop. They're like, oh man, I'm going to tell my mom. They like the business flourishes. It starts growing. The owner of the shop goes, hey Bob, you're the best mechanic ever. You're so good at this. I want you to manage the shop.
Boom.
Bob's not a manager.
Yeah.
He's a mechanic.
Yeah.
So now Bob has to manage people.
And mechanic.
You see, that's what happens when you hire the best person for the job.
Yeah.
That's not what happens when you hire somebody that has one arm to do a job that you need two hands to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't need one-armed tree fellers. We don't need one-armed firefighters.
DEI crosses the gambit, like the people with mental problems, people with
hell. We elected people with mental problems to run our country, and we call them leaders, and they're not. They're not leaders.
Oh, no.
They're supposed to follow. We are the leaders.
Yeah,
we're supposed to lead with
right.
our vote. But I think that the Christian populace, the Christian people in America, in the West in general. I think so long we've just had our head down. Like, I'm working hard, I'm taking care of my family.
Yeah.
Like, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
Well, then, like, what we saw in this last election cycle is finally that group of people were like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Hold on.
I can't be quiet anymore.
Say what?
You know? I just can't be quiet.
No.
And so,
No, we moved. That was a definite movement. And it's punk rock now.
Yep.
You know?
well,
Yes.
the
Christianity
crazy punk
is
rock.
as punk rock as
Yes.
you
Yes.
can get.
Yes, I'm glad you
Exactly
said that.
right. Yep.
Exactly. So, like, that's another thought. Like, I grew up watching, like, I never was punk. I was always kind of like,
Grunge.
no, I was more like, you know, like, I played golf.
Country? Listen to country? I like country.
I didn't listen to country. In fact, my first CD was a Newsboys CD. I didn't listen to any secular music that wasn't like 90s country.
Oh, I had to
until
listen
I
to
was-
it all, too. I was not allowed to listen to anything.
Like, I didn't watch
secular.
Beavis and Butthead or The Simpsons.
Yeah,
like, that stuff was off limits.
Yeah. But I know what you mean. My younger cousin had to smuggle me Pearl Jam 10 and Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. He was like, bro, have you heard of these? And I was like, no. He's like, here, take mine. I'll get more.
So
And I was like, this is the best.
it's
Oh,
really
punk rock.
interesting about the punk rock. Like, it's an interesting thing because there's been like a flip. Like, back in the day, like, it was
purely
cool
American.
to be like the
government's
atheist,
bad.
you know,
Yeah.
The
government's,
government's
bad,
bad.
all that kind of stuff. And now we have a lot of Christians
Government's
that have
bad.
been rising up and saying government is bad.
Government's
Get
lost
them out.
its damn mind.
Yeah, the left now, the
the
hippies,
establishments, yeah.
they are the establishment.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
the ones that were like, we're not going to wear bras, we're having sex with everybody should do drugs, the government's trying to kill people in Vietnam.
Yeah.
You know, now they were like standing in stores that they didn't work in, like, put your mask on over your nose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, whoa, Zhao, what are we
Yeah.
talking about, big dog? Like,
Yeah.
take a step back. Who gave you?
I did not participate in any
I didn't
of
either. It was
that.
wild. People would be like, "Hey, sir." I'm like, "No, thank you." I just
Yeah.
kept walking. They're like, "No, you have to leave." I'm like, "I ain't going anywhere."
You go, no, thanks. I don't know what you want, but from me, but I don't know. I'm gonna go.
If I fart, can you smell it? You know,
I'm
behind your mask.
walking away now.
They're wearing like 2 and 3 masks. People in their
yeah.
cars. I
Dude.
still see them.
Still see him today.
I was at
They're
home.
still doing it.
Dude, I was at
I was
home.
like, maybe he's got cancer.
I was at Home Depot the other day, and this dude was wearing a mask, like working at Home Depot,
Unbelievable.
like just standing in the store.
Nuts.
And so I was like,
That may be.
maybe it was Rogan that was talking about this. He was like, dude, they should make it illegal to
Yeah.
cover your face.
Absolutely.
And I said this
well,
like
they had to do that in New York.
February or March of 2020
Yeah.
when everything went wild. They told us, hey, you have to wear a mask. And I said, wait a minute. This is so backwards. Back in the day, good guys didn't hide their guns. They wore them
Yeah.
on their hip.
Yeah.
And they shook hands with their gun hand
Yeah.
to indicate that they meant no harm. And bad guys wore masks on their face and hid their guns.
Will Rogers
And
said
how
that-
have we flipped it? How have we done this? How have we
Armed
allowed
society is a polite society.
Absolutely.
Will Rogers.
it? Absolutely.
No, it has totally flipped. But that is what I like about America is we go through these little fads quickly, whereas Europe just embraces it.
Completely.
They're just because they're used to being ruled by a monarchy, and in their deep recesses of their epigenetics, they're just like, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not a noble. I'm just a serf. I belong digging in the mud and doing whatever they say.
Yeah.
Americans
I'm in
are
sales.
like,
Freedom.
hell
Dude,
no.
people love to be told what to do. Like I am in
Some,
sales.
yeah.
It's a helping profession. I help people with their life insurance or financial stuff, and people are terrified of being sold. They don't want to be sold something, but they don't know enough about these things to make an informed decision, right? So, like, I don't want to sell anybody anything, even when I sold RVs or internet or
You
whatever.
don't really
I
have
don't
to
wanna
sell
it.
insurance. They demand you have it.
I
It's a rule.
It is auto.
I don't sell PNC or health.
Okay.
So it's financial, life insurance, things like that.
Okay.
You don't have to have
Oh,
that.
okay. No, you
And so, it's interesting. People are terrified of being sold, but they love to buy things.
Oh, yeah.
People love to go shopping and buy things, but people want to be told what to do. Like what is it? Not Grapes of Wrath. What is it with the Bay of Pigs or Pigs? What is that book?
Great.
You know what I'm talking about? Where the little kids, they're on an island.
Animal Farm.
Yeah.
By Oscar. Orwell.
Yeah,
George Orwell.
Yeah, George Orwell.
Animal Farm.
No, he's the one that wrote 1984.
100%. 1984. You know,
I don't think that
Clockwork Orange.
It's a symptom of our collective
degeneracy.
Yeah, but we have a mass orientation. Once we all get together, we act different than when we're by ourselves or in smaller groups. So yeah, humanity has that. America doesn't really display that on a large scale. You know, we don't want to be told what to do.
Well, we don't think we do. But like when I was in
we learned
college,
a lot through COVID. We learned a lot.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
we
you know,
learned
have
who
you
the
seen that
rebels
deal
were.
where the people are sitting in a doctor's office and they ring a bell and like some paid actors stand up every time the bell rings and they stand up and then they sit down. And then after a little while, everybody in the office was standing up every time the bell rang. You know, nobody told them what to do.
Experiment where they shocked people and the guy who was not being shocked, but the people who were doing the shocking actually thought they were inflicting harm, but they would just do anything they were told because of a lab coat. And,
100%. And then there was the prison experiment.
You know what? That just got busted.
Yeah.
Not real.
What, the prison
Yeah,
experiment?
really busted. Yeah, by
Really?
a spindly little Frenchman dug into it and it was like, this is the grandfather of reality TV.
Wow.
It was
No
all scripted.
way.
Oh yeah, all the guards were actors. They were all they were all told what to do. Increasingly get,
More rainbow.
But were the people that were in prison also?
Yeah, they were. That was less scripted, but they did not revert. They wanted out because they were being mistreated. That's natural. But the experiment says that if you put people in charge, the experiment was about the guards.
Right.
You know, because they're trying to, and he went on the stand and dismissed, got a lot of things dismissed because of this study. You know, prison system back in the 70s was terrible.
Yeah.
You know, they did have a problem with guards mistreating prisoners.
Yeah.
And he got them off, and that's what happened in the Nuremberg trials. It was basically saying it wasn't us, it was this mentality that you have when you're set over people in a prison-like state. But they did the same one experiment in a couple of different universities around the world, and it got nothing like that.
Gotcha.
And they dug into it, and the guy, I wish I could remember. It's a show. It's like ran on the Travel Channel or something like that. It's like the Sanford Experiment Exposed or something, and like he dug into all these things.
Gotcha.
And so, we science is only as good as who's paying for it. And that's part of it's very scary that we have all these studies out there and we have no clue who paid for it.
Yep.
And to be able to find that out would take a mountain of research, and time that people don't have. So no telling how many things that are out there.
It's almost like the funding for this stuff is money laundering. You know, it's like who knows where it came from.
Like
it's Vanderbilt
was responsible for evolution being taught in schools, and because of that, every major zoo in every city went out and abducted a South American family and put them in cages. This isn't even talked about. You know, the book is called "Survival of the Fittest," or the survival of the favored races. And according to evolution, African cultures, Hispanic cultures, and Irish cultures are not humans yet.
Yep.
So you can read about Otto Banga. He was from the Pygmy tribe, and he was put into
a zoo.
The Bronx Zoo for 17 years.
Yeah.
Right
a
next
human being.
Yeah, and his family.
Yeah.
Right next to the orangutan cage. And, they even filed his teeth sharp. You know, and they were given a script about how they were supposed to make fires. They did originally give them bows and arrows, but they were shooting them at the patrons. So they basically just, and then
that's what the theory of evolution, when it goes from just a theory to reality,
to dangerous
to people
ideology.
adopting that and saying, hey, these people are lesser, and like that was, I think that was one of the biggest things that I noticed that I had a problem with the theory of evolution was it says that black people are lesser.
Are subhuman.
Yeah. And so that was kind of like a big click in my head, even as a young child, like learning about this stuff from Discovery Channel. You know, I had a lot of encyclopedias that were in front of me that would even perpetuate this stuff.
Yeah.
I think that whenever you have a society that gets to this point where they're just trying to look everywhere except up, except to God, then that's when the fall really starts to take place.
Absolutely. Every society that's like, say, went did to gratuitous drugs and sexual promiscuity definitely falls. Rome, Greece, all the big boys. You know, they've all fallen for the same reasons. And I'm really hoping that there's a revolution, revival afoot, something.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Casey Parker messaged us the other day, and he was like, "You're just gonna have to get comfortable with the fact that the United States is Rome."
Is Rome? Yeah. Well, it's a case study for every single society that exists.
Right.
You know, it's not. We just happen to be the top of the heap, so we have that uniquely in common with Rome, because their reign was like 900 years before before everybody just kind of walked out of that city.
Yeah.
Awesome city, Rome.
Oh, I
broke into the Roman Colosseum one time. It was one of my finer moments.
So crazy.
Yeah,
we get tackled or something?
No, I'm fast, boy. You boys could not catch me. I'm like, you guys play soccer, I play football. You know, American football. No, it was close because they have this thing. They practice siesta, in which they take a nap in the middle of their workday. Is probably why the lira is worth nothing. You know, and they completely depend on tourist dollars. But it was closed in the middle of the day, and I was going to leave, and I was like, "No way, man! I am seeing this Colosseum.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be in Rome, not see this." And my friends were like, "You're on your own on this one. Too many crazy adventures.
You're too East Texas for us right now.
Too crazy. We've been too close to arrest or death or bodily harm. You know, when you're leading. You know, I'm like, all right, guys. Yeah, all right. I'll be back at the hotel later." And there was a patrol car that went around and guards walking around, and I had my little Timex Iron Man watch. I even timed him. I was like, because I've always wanted to be Indiana Jones. So I think that was my first, role model. But yeah, because the stones are so pitted because of mortar shells and people just taking the stones, like it's a pitted, structure.
Yeah.
And I knew I could climb up this column and jump over the fence. It was a good 12, the fence was substantial and it was curved outwards. But if you could make it up level with that curve, you could get in.
Yeah.
So I had about 30 seconds between the patrol car and the foot patrol to scale this column and just jumped in, hit the ground, back up against the wall, and then let the guards walk past. And then I just walked straight in, and I'm alone with the Roman Colosseum, and there's like one track where you can go around where tourists are allowed. Like, well, I'm trespassing anyway. I'm getting down into that middle part because I had studied this building.
Yeah, definitely.
They had the first elevators. It was highly technological. It was a technological marvel. This building, they had water battles. They could seal it, pump in water, pump it out. So I'm down there underground. I'm seeing all the mechanisms, the cages where the gladiators were, the lions were, and let me tell you guys, it was swarming with cats.
Yeah,
whoa!
I've heard
hundreds
about that.
and hundreds and hundreds of cats because Rome was like, we're gonna have a bunch of stray cats. We're not gonna have rats.
Yeah.
Because
I guess I could see that.
So
but cats piss on everything.
Well, it's better than having the Black Plague.
Yeah.
because there's so much ruins underneath the city. It's perfect for all these rats, and they had a proliferation. So they in all of these medieval cities, they highly prized their cat populations. But they thought I was there to do something, and it was just creeping me out so bad. I had the light from my Timex watch, and all these cats. And I'm like,
dude.
Hey, if these cats wanted to swarm me right now, I don't know if I could make it out. And I couldn't even see my ankles. I couldn't see my feet. There was just a river of cats.
Trying to trip you the whole time.
I don't know what they wanted from me, but they were looking up at me. They were all very vocal, you know.
You're lucky you weren't at the top of a set of stairs or anything.
Yeah, I was trying to like put it on like, don't even try it, cat. You know, like well, it only takes one brave one. Then they're all coming, you know. I'll smash you, cat. But then I started taking pictures because back in the day you had to have like one of those little cameras, and and it started to get dark, and it started flashing, and then they noticed it and they start blowing whistles because they don't. Because
that's Europe.
Yeah, it's Europe.
That's
they don't have
Europe
guns.
Does.
They're not intimidated. They have
they're
whistles.
Blowing whistles for
you know,
help.
they're like, and then I hear the whistles amplify and go all the way around. You know, so they're signaling each other. So I just running and I'm jumping over things, and at midair I'm like, that's way too deep. I should not be jumping over this. This is dumb. You're not Indiana Jones. You know, and so I finally got back to where I came in, hit the ground, and they're coming from both ends, and I'm just sprint into the room. I felt just like Indiana Jones. They're chasing me. I'm running through tables. I'm trying to knock things over until they stop, and I'm like, I'm not getting deported. I'll be so screwed. I'll be so screwed. Paolo would be so mad. But yeah,
wow.
I had a lot of adventures. Life has not been boring.
Dang, you got those pictures still?
Yeah, I'm like looking up in the very last one. I'm like, oh no. It's like, and then I'm trying to hide, and then it's like, poof, lights me up like Christmas. You know, I'm like.
When did you start painting for Jesus? When you were in a band in New York, were you painting then?
Yeah, I was trying to. I was interning with artists, with established artists. I was trying to get big projects. I was trying to get big shows, and it's kind of a pay to play up there.
Yeah.
If you want a show, you have to sleep with the gallery owners. Usually a dude, you know. And it's like it is about who you know. It's a totally closed system. So I'm doing pop-up shows. I'm trying to learn the industry. And I did a Exodus. One of my best pieces. I almost sell it. It was the Exodus, and I was like, man, I could do this. This is a never-ending muse. It's a story that it would be inexhaustible. I could paint the rest of my life and not even get to a quarter.
Yeah.
Of this magical library in one binding that's written over the course of 1,500 years, and it has a through line and prophecy and things that came true later that couldn't have possibly been, handed down. And these people were privy to actual magic, to someone who had control over the elements. This didn't spread because people were making stuff up. People don't die in vicious ways for a lie. Yeah, they die in vicious ways because they saw something real. They're like, you kill me any way you want. This guy is real. Yeah, and but nobody's doing this, and like no one would buy this. And I'm like, it still kind of mystifies me. Like, who would even want this? This is too crazy. And then I started painting it, and I was like, this is coming out crazy. Even the church is gonna like say this is weird and blasphemy and. What is this? Nobody knows what this means. But I did years later after the Exodus. I had a series I called Exoskeleton Megacities. It's a future of urban design, but that's too far in the future. Technology's just gonna have to catch up. So it's not possible yet. But I did a rendition of the crucifix scene. I did these tall, bendy, spirally crosses, and just very weird. And then an art critic saw it, and he didn't know what it was. And he's this 89-year-old, guy that has been in the art world for a long time, and he definitely is not a believer. He's kind of a hater, but I was like, that's the crucifixion, and I'm like, and he's like, do a whole show like that.
Wow.
And I'll get you a show at the MoMA in Longview after I moved back. Yeah. After I kind of learned everything I needed to learn at New York. After you're on a street corner and 2 lifetimes ago you had some like traumatic experience, like there's just the whole city. The city becomes like too many ghosts for you. Right. It's too small. Yeah, it's a very, very small city. There's like you only use about 4 miles by 6 miles of it. Yeah, it's people think it's big. It looks big. It's not. Yeah, and it's all crowded in there. You start to feel. So I was like, nah, I'm going back to Tyler. I didn't leave Tyler on my own accord. I was made to leave here, And so it was really refreshing that I was going to get to come back here and finally live in Tyler again. I hadn't lived in Tyler since, the 9th grade. When we moved to Oklahoma. But he got me the show. The curator of the, first of all, Longview has a MoMA and Tyler doesn't. Modern Museum of Art, like it's a system. Like they're kicking our butts over there in Longview when it comes to art. But long story short, we had a board meeting. We had a show date and everything. And I have about 20 paintings on this long table with about 20 people from the board. And they're all looking it over, And then they're like, this is great. This is, wow, I love the color, when art people try to talk,
Yeah.
That's why I hang out with, like, normal dude.
Yeah.
Like carpenters. Like, I'm a carpenter professionally. That's how I eat. And I like regular people. I don't want to talk that drippy talk all the time.
Yeah.
But, they're trying. And then one by one, they go quiet. They're like, oh, no. This wash of dread comes over their faces as if I can't believe I let this filthy Christian trick me into saying something nice about his art. It was the colors, maybe it was the shape, it got me.
In Longview, Texas.
In Longview, Texas. Because they double down around here. I mean, they're haters everywhere, but
when they're in the Bible Belt, then
they
double,
consider themselves the bright shining light to all these backwards rejects that are Christians, and they're going to show them, the bright shining.
So like they hadn't realized.
And one by one they start, because they'd already painted themselves in the corner. And
when I they already dread, complimented you.
Real dread.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies folds her arm and she goes, "Is this Muhammad? Like this better be Muhammad." And I was like, "No, ma'am." I was like, "This is Jesus. This is obviously Jesus."
Yeah.
And they all look at each other, and all give and they start single file. She led the way, and as soon as she turned to walk out, they all walked out in protest, and I was just like, what is happening?
What?
And the guy that brought me there, he's an 89-year-old gay professor that has fought his whole life, for equality and the rights of people. He's like, I am in the twilight zone.
Yeah.
I never would have thought right now I would be fighting for a Christian's, ability to show here, but I am furious. You are obviously being discriminated against.
Well, it's amazing, like to his credit that he would even stand by it, right?
Yeah, and
so
he
that's
asks me
amazing
all the time, please do something different. He knows he's created a monster.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, dude, this is too punk rock. It's just too punk rock. Nobody's seen anything like this. I've kind of worked in. I used to want to be a comic book illustrator.
Oh,
in fact, I could draw. Comic books. Wow. When I was probably 16, I sent some characters to Marvel in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Mailed them.
Really?
Yeah. They sent it back. It had been opened.
Yeah.
But it was taped shut with a letter. They're like, look, we can't look at these because of copyright infringement. We might come out with a character. But they were like, but we think you're good. We don't know. We looked at these and these are real good.
Yeah.
And you're real good. Draw us our own characters and send them to us. And I was just a prideful little bastard. I was like, screw them. I was like, guess what?
My characters are great.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to make my own comic book. Someday I will be rivaling you. I called it Final G Comics. I still have a...
Screw you, Stan Lee.
Yeah. I was just... Meanwhile, I could have sent them there and I could have had a job at 18 years old and moved to Grand Rapids and had an awesome job at Marvel. But no.
Who wants to live in
Little
Grand
Mr.
Rapids?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Too cool.
Can you tell us a little bit about you discovering Christ and you becoming a Christian? I mean, I feel like we kind of we talked about the wild.
Like I said, I was grown. I grew up in a Christian house, quote unquote.
Right,
so
which is dangerous, right?
Yeah,
it's good, but it's not good.
It's the most insidious lies are 99% true.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the old man was selling us this lie, and I had always felt like it was real. For some reason, as a young kid, I'm like, I feel protected from this man.
Yeah.
I feel like he wants to kill me, feel like he's tried a few times and something has stopped him.
Yeah.
You know, and I just and then at 6th grade, Creation versus Evolution, you know, there was not a contest.
Right. Yeah.
Creation won. And then, you know, I remember one day we were in church, some guest pastors had come up, and I was probably like 9, 10, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go up and make this official.
In this.
Yeah. My dad looked at me like, what? You're not a Christian? You know,
Really?
like, what in the world? Like, what is, like, he was totally confused. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, I got to know a little bit of the pastors and their families, and, like, he would kind of let us go to youth group. Like, youth group was too extreme. You know,
Yeah.
we weren't allowed. Youth group kids were, like, bad and evil.
Got
But
it.
I got to see, because he knew once I saw a well-functioning Christian home that I'd be like, all right, this is different than where I'm
There's
at.
accountability when you
And-
see the truth.
And it also, whenever I left the house, you know, I should have rebelled. I should have been like, you know, I always say this to people, you know, because I every time I ask an atheist or meet an atheist, I say, oh, what religion did you grow up in? 100% of the time, they laugh. It's like, oh my gosh, Russian Orthodox. And then I go, what? I go, that'll do it. You know? And then they go, oh yeah, hardcore Southern Baptist. And I go, that'll do it. You know? They're like, oh yeah, Lutheranism. Yeah. As soon as I got out, I'm like, that'll do it. You know?
Yeah.
And as soon as they get out, they just run from it because, you know, when in essence they're saying, you people were mean to me. God isn't real.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
Poof,
yeah.
gone. You know, they blame everything on God, and you know, and that just didn't happen with me. So I was like, why not? I'm not in control of this. I'm not like this is not some grand intellectual pursuit of mine. I'm just trying to get through my life.
Right.
And I'm like, why am I fighting for this? Why is it sticking to me? And then I was like, must be real.
Yeah.
And then, and of course, just having a bedrock scientific understanding of where things come from and what things are at the elemental level. Like, I know that there are energy half-lives trapped in all granite. You know, they have a half-life of 9 millionths of a second.
Yeah.
You know, that means that rock had to be like, boom,
Yep.
slapped together. There was a big bang. Just, it
was God.
an intentional one.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I always like to say evolution starts right smack in the middle of the story. You know, okay, where the space rocks come from? You know, it's just like, and the fact that we know that biological consciousness is the reason that matter actually holds together by design.
Which is a real mind.
But nobody knows what to do with that.
Yeah.
We know what to do with that.
Yeah.
I read a book. Well, I didn't read a book. I heard this one time. But the guy said he read this highfalutin science book, and at the end of it, he said, the biggest fear I have, first person as the scientist writing the science book, was I'm going to climb this mountain of intellectual pursuit and knowledge and scientific pursuits and get to the top and find a handful of mystics wondering where have I been the whole time.
I've heard that. I've heard that said a little bit differently. Like I've done all these accolades for science, you know, everything, and then get to the top and there's a bunch of theologians.
Yeah.
Sitting
More
there
specifically,
waiting.
right? Right. I like to use that. I've broadened out I've tried to, you know, being in New York and being around like, and that was another thing. I wanted to test myself at the end of college. I'd worked with kids, or you know, I'd taken underprivileged kids to camp and worked with them, and you know, just done what you're supposed to do. Give of your time. Go, you know. However, I was the only person that the Christian fraternity, Brothers Under Christ, did not allow to pledge. Like they'd been a Christian fraternity since the 80s. They don't turn away anyone, but me. They have turned away one person.
You were too punk rock. For
I know.
it.
I guess no. The main guy didn't like me for some reason. He just didn't like me. I had worked with his girlfriend in a retail store, and the first time I saw him,
The girlfriend liked
she
you, that's
runs
why he
over
didn't.
to me and just like I was like, this is bad. She's like, because we were friends. I made her laugh, you know.
Yeah.
But I saw the fire in Trent's eyes.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, as Trent was like, he will never don the colors of the Christ.
The block of cock.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was a little badge of honor, but it was progressing to where I needed to have another ministry, and then I read the parable of the talents, you know, and I was like, I can't be that guy. I was like, hey, I buried them. Here you are for you.
Yeah.
You know, I was too chicken to do what I should have done. And as soon as I got a little validation for doing that, that's all I've wanted to do.
Yeah.
because within a scriptural story, if you paint just a snapshot of it, that's all you have. And that's all that's ever been painted. But there is a tense, there is a beginning of that story and the end of that story, and everything happened in between, and that story's linked to the next story.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's endless. It's literally endless. I could paint the same story over and over again in different tenses, but I have this comic book bend, and where I'm drawing the entire story, like the one that we have in the studio right now is his first miracle, turning water into wine, which is, and so here I show him when Mary comes to him. First of all, is Mary planning this thing? Like, what kind of interest does she have in asking him this favor? And then his reply is, "It's not my time yet." So he had this time, and that also dispels all of these crazy stories about, oh yeah, when Jesus was a kid, he used to, he pushed his neighbor kid off to his death and then resurrected him. You've heard all these dumb stories. You're like, no, he was a regular kid. He was a regular dude, until the time that his mom was like, please do something. And so, but it doesn't go into detail about what made him change his mind. So, and that's mind blowing in and of itself. This is the only Godhead that you can bargain with. There's no other God that's going to listen to his puny little
sympathy or anything. Yeah.
So he's like, maybe she started walking away and was sad, and then he's like, maybe he grabbed her hand. So I show Christ like twice.
Yeah.
That's
what time, I was gathering. Yeah.
Right. I was hoping. I was like, are people going to know that both of them are Jesus, just in different tenses? And
like the second Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe she walked away and she was sad in this, and he was like, I want to do this for Mom.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to change my timeline. I'm pulling an audible for Mom because she needs this. Yeah. She wants this right now. She needs a little shine here. So he's like, all right, go get six jars, Mom. Tell him to go get six jars. And so, but at the bottom of it, I literally show the molecular structure of water disassociating and turning into wine, the H2O.
Oh, okay.
See that?
That's what that is.
Yeah, it's this river of blue, and the molecule, I draw the molecule out. The
H2O to wine 2O.
Yeah. And it's mind-blowing to show people these are just elements. This is H2O is a hydrogen and 2 oxygens. And a wine molecule is 14 carbons, 13 hydrogens, and 3 oxygens. And that's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's wine. Yeah. And so this entity has control over the elements. So see his hand in the foreground waving over it.
Yeah.
And then all the, of course, the rest of the story, they're like, whoa, you brought out the good line.
Like the amount of depth, though, like
the people, the servants.
In the whole field, it's just, there's a lot. This is what I love about your painting. There's just a lot going on. Yeah. But the farther away you get from it, it still makes sense. The closer you get to it, it still makes sense. Like some of your posts on Facebook, it'll be like the whole picture, and then you have like 6 more pictures of the pictures inside the pictures, to where I could even see the brush stroke. It really invokes a feeling. It's a. Thanks, man. Like, I want to say this because. You talk about people speaking in tongues and some of the stuff that really gets under fire. And like I grew up in a Baptist church and it was a great education. I mean, like Travis and I went to church together as kids, so we heard the same messages. And I think Travis brings the good parts of that out because he teaches so, I don't know, I learn from it.
Yeah.
Like a week later, I'll be going to the bathroom and I'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you just look at a picture and you're like, it's a picture.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, I get it that we could like dissect it. Like we talked about the Mona Lisa earlier. I get it. There's a bunch of stuff going on there, but like at the end of the day, it's just a picture. But like, I don't get that feeling about your pictures. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not just a picture. You can tell it's not moving, but it's moving.
It's alive.
And it's not just a feeling.
Right.
There's something real and heavy about
Absolutely.
it. To me, that's amazing. Like it's like you've found this like secret of the universe that like painting things about the creator of the universe is way more interesting than painting
I can't believe it didn't occur to me earlier. It just hit me like a ton of bricks whenever that guy was like, do this. And I was like, yes.
That's genius.
Yeah.
And my process is, this is really trippy. This is how I can say that this might actually be a collaboration between the Holy Spirit and myself. I start with the canvas on the ground, dumping paint on it. Dumping my extra solvents.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, told me about that.
I paint with lighter fluid, like barbecue lighter fluid.
Nice.
Because it's cheaper and it's more live of a molecule than the store brand paint thinners.
I'll have to remember that.
It'll tear that oil paint up quickly.
Yeah.
And it dries quicker. So while I'm dumping all these pigments, these water-based and oil-based, they separate. And it becomes sort of like this Rorschach in front of me that literally sits on my easel. I get it to this point where I'm happy with it. Mm-hmm. It looks interesting, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to be. I just know it's going to be a Bible story,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'll see a face, here or there. And then I'll just naively paint this face.
Yeah.
And then this is literally what's on my canvas right now. I'm mad, all this madness and then one face in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
And I still don't know where it's going. Actually, I'm kind of deciding that it's going to be a creation thing because all of the colors are vividly represented.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of this slow thing that dawns on me, where I did start out like, I want to do this, I want to do that story, this story, that story. Now that I've done a lot of them, I've been doing this for a couple of years now. About 50, 60, 70 pieces are out there in the world now, doing things, and this is scripture on people's wall out in the world, and I'm like, you have to, first of all, you have to have non-Christian friends. You have to have people that don't think like you.
Right.
And if you got to show them that you're about love, so you have to literally be friends with them, like them, and invite. They've got to be in your house, and that's going to be the conversation starter.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
I know a dude that does sales off of. He's just on the Skype all day, and he's got my pieces behind him. He said it's a constant.
Yeah.
He goes, I get into a spiritual conversation with people all over the world. He sells lasers, he sells, to big time shows, and people are like, okay,
what is that?
What is behind you? What is that? We've been talking here. We're selling lasers, and I can't stop looking at this madness that's behind you.
Yeah.
It is it's definitely nothing like any of the masters have done before, but no one's done this since the Middle Ages, when no one spoke Latin and they, had services in Latin, and the illuminators, they called them, the people that wrote and drew and made the literal texts beautiful. Monks, basically would start painting pictures on the wall like a comic book. Like this is what it was. This is where we are. This is where we're talking about. And so that is a tradition that I am super proud to just catch up, to start again. And it's not iconography, This is something different. I can't even name this, I want history to name this, I don't know what we got here. I'll just wait for.
Quick question. What's going on here?
That's his hand in the foreground.
Okay, got you.
Waving over
going back and forth. I thought it was a spaceship for a second, but you definitely see the
it's
hand
his
waving.
Earthship, and I use a lot of gold paint. It's very expensive. It has an actual gold fleck in it. And,
I can see that.
I was wondering how you got it to look like that.
It's straight up Japanese paint. It's a Japanese brand, but they catch gold flakes. I guess,
you don't dump that out on the canvases when you're starting.
No, it's for very purposeful uses only, and it only flashes out when the light hits it just right.
Yeah.
So the painting will reveal itself well after. I get calls all the time. Hey, did you mean to? And I'm like, like I see it now. I see it now. I didn't know what that was, but I see it now.
Well, you talking about, the Holy Spirit and me partnering up and everything. Like, that's actually the first piece that I ever saw in person of yours was the Jonah piece.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever you said that you just like splattered some paint on there
Yeah.
and you couldn't see anything other than
Yeah.
the whale,
Yeah.
like I
That was
was
supposed to be-
like, you can't not do what we see type thing.
I was going to do a whole Jericho scene.
Yeah.
And I let it dry. And that's the thing. You go to bed, and it's going to look different because that paint is going to sit there and move
Settle.
all night.
Yep.
And yeah, there's a giant blue whale right there. I was like, unmistakable. Okay.
Wow.
I guess we're doing Jonah now.
Here's doing Jonah.
And then Travis did a sign of Jonah, or I read.
Series on it.
Yeah, I did a series on it, and then I didn't know this, but Jesus called himself the sign of Jonah.
Yeah,
you know, so I even got to add Jesus in there, like you know, Jesus lived 800 years after Jonah. You know?
Yeah.
So I got to put Jesus in there, you know, at the same time with Jonah, and it was just that one came out.
Well, your pieces have always spoke to me. I love going to see your gallery. I think I've been two or three times, and every time I take something away from it, and it's such a huge impact on me. It inspires me as an artist. You know, like
you're definitely an artist.
You know, whenever I was first getting into taxidermy, I was like, I can't do this. But you know, the more people, you included, that just encouraged me to keep doing that. Like I was like,
So good at it, man.
Okay, that just makes sense.
I knew it was involved, but I didn't know how it was that involved.
Oh, yeah.
It
It ain't that big of a deal. It's a lot of stitching and stuff like that. But like,
That's wild.
It's definitely something where someone can look at you and see what you're doing here and be inspired to take that onto another form of ministry.
Yeah.
Like what Travis has been talking about.
Yeah, he said
the
live
last few
intentionally. In
weeks.
fact, he gave an art analogy, you know, and I was like, that's literally what I'm doing.
Yep.
I was like, this could be a global ministry.
Yeah.
One that outlasts me.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's hard to sit in this room and not look at that.
Not look at it.
There's a presence.
It's too wild.
And I want to say almost like it says when two or more are gathered in my name, you know, I'm with you. But like,
Sit there with that painting long enough.
I really feel like it's a physical thing. Like, not that it's an idol.
Yeah.
Somehow I can hear.
There's somebody
I
out there saying it.
differentiate. Yeah. Well, actually, I came across that. It was really funny because before I put these out in the world, they're all over my apartment. You know,
Right.
I paint a lot, so it consumed the walls. And I remember I was having a tough time, and I was like going through it, and I walk around and I pace and talk to myself, and I addressed one of the paintings directly, the image that I made.
Whoa.
And this deep, sharp pang of don't do that. You know, just sprang all the way through my body. I straightened up. I was like,
Yes, sir.
oh my gosh. I was like, Aaron, do not talk to these. I was like, first of all, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Secondly, that's blasphemy, man.
Yeah.
Like, do not make images that you made. And so if anybody ever brings that up to me, I'm like, refrain from addressing
Yeah,
the
definitely.
image in there directly. Let it make you remember or think about what happened.
Yeah.
And why you are a believer because of eyewitness accounts to absolute raw power.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason this went all the way around the known world immediately by the slave class, by females. You know,
By the upper class.
Yeah,
everybody.
This he went viral in his own time without an army or a cell phone. That's never happened before or since.
Yeah.
His religion has lasted longer than any major religion on earth.
Yeah.
You know,
And saying that not just from the perspective of Christianity, but also in the perspective of I'm about my Father's business.
Yeah.
Whenever he was in the Old Testament, so I tend to not separate the two.
Yeah,
Because he's bringing forward the kingdom of God, and Jesus was saying the kingdom is at hand.
Because we're really just a weird sect that broke away from Judaism.
Yeah.
That the Messiah fulfilled.
That changed the world. That spelt the end of Rome. You know? Antioch and the early churches are very, very intriguing to me. You know, because they were hunted. You know, they were absolutely hunted and killed. And that's where a lot of people think the original of the anarchy sign came from.
Antioch.
With the A inside of the O. Well, it was the Alpha and the Omega.
Yeah.
Got
In
it.
fact, yeah.
punk
I
rock.
thought I knew stuff. Because it was hastily carved because you were running. You were burying this thing. You looked,
doing it
frantically. You looked left. You looked right. When all of the religious leaders were, you put that Alpha and the Omega. Like, this is a Christian burial. We believe in Jesus.
Bro, I'm going to get the anarchy put on me now.
Dude.
I'm gonna get
ideas that can get you killed.
Ideas that can get... I tell people that and the word anti-archy means you are anti the hierarchy of the time. Mm-hmm. You are living in a time in which you believe that your government or your ruling class has become evil and intolerable. Mm-hmm. It's not anti all rule of law.
Y'all
and it
structure,
doesn't mean chaos. The word chaos means chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I built that rock club underneath the gallery, Mm-hmm. For one day, I was this rock club owner.
Yeah.
And I told the buildings owner what I did, and they're like, "You did what?" Stop immediately and move out of the building.
Yeah.
But I had all this, I had the Alpha and the Omega, which the A carried through the O. It was so close to the anarchy, but it was the Alpha and the Omega, and I put all these huge long quantum mechanics theorems behind it, just pure math.
Yeah.
Pure math. And I had all these punk kids being like, whoa, what the heck is this place? I had like enigmatic sayings in Latin.
I'm going to skip school and come here.
Yeah. Like this room was a room that only churches only dream of. I had Iso Cientas Vos right in front of right behind the stage. It means Jesus knows you.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
On the back wall, I had Hebrews 11, faith is the essence of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, and these like punk kids are just looking at it like, what is this enigmatic writing,
Well, if
I signed it Alpha and Omega, and I'm like, but it looked anarchy, but it wasn't quite. They were like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, that's the Alpha and the Omega, man.
Well, so I've been into your old gallery.
Yeah.
You have a new gallery?
Yeah, working on it right now. It's killing me.
Yeah. So what's your ideas? What's your plans? Like what's...
Well, it's a better location, and I've created a collective this time, so it's not just me,
That's good.
And so I will be one of the artists in there, one of 10 to 12 artists that display in there, and that'll be interesting too because it'll be such a dichotomy of like, here's some horses, and here's some landscapes, and here's some abstract, and here's some photography, and here's some
Jesus
looks like Jesus and some wild circumstance. I don't know what we're seeing here. But it's gonna be so cool, and of course it has a basement too. That we're gonna try to turn into.
Where's it located?
Small music venue, 119 West Ferguson, right there on the square.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Right across from that the petroleum building, right next to the federal courthouse there.
Got it.
So it's right on the
good
square.
spot to be.
It is just yeah.
And they're doing all that stuff down there.
Yeah,
and that's gonna.
And
be
we
cool.
got a 5-year lease, so we will be there whenever that turns into a new, it's brand new. And it's all part.
Definitely.
What we really need, though, Tyler needs to step up its game. It needs to adopt stringent tourism zoning laws, or the downtown is just going to be owned by lawyers.
Yeah.
Like New Orleans, like
that.
you couldn't, like if you're H&R Block, you could not go down to New Orleans and buy one of those buildings on the French Quarter. Not for all the money in the world.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's zoned for tourism.
Yeah.
If we had a Tyler ordinance that said all of the ground floor businesses have to be tourism related, shopping, restaurants, galleries, bars, music venues, then Tyler could take that next step that it just needs to take. There's just there's some unseen force that is pushed back, but we're going to get to the bottom of that.
Well, dude, you're fighting the fight, man. Like,
I want to open up a sweet music venue. I want to open up a music venue that can hold like 200-300 people. I'm eyeballing the filling station. That Art Deco gym that's right across the street from East Texas.
Yeah.
Brewery that has an underground area. I was talking to this guy named Chuck Durrett. Chuck Durrett is like semi-famous. He ran Start Club in the 80s, which got a write-up in the New York Times as being the Studio 54 of the South.
Wow.
Like he had famous friends, but I brought him this investor, and the guy is super duper liberal, like insane, like militant. Like I was in backwards land. So here I was watching an argument happening between these two old guys. There's the gay, hyper liberal Tylerite, bitching out the conservative businessman from Los Angeles, and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I'm bringing this guy that's worth a lot of money. We want to turn this space into a music venue, and you're throwing us out.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize, I had heard of the Trump derangement syndrome thing, and I thought it was just kind of cheeky. No, that's real.
Yeah.
That man turned down money.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you're a fascist. Get out of my property. And I was like, and he was like, Aaron, don't bring me any more Trump voters. I was like, Chuck, who do you think I am? And he was just like, well, you're an artist. It's different. And I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever, Chuck. And I've struck him off the list. I'm not going to investing in that building. And he's about to be surrounded by high-end residential.
Yeah.
Everything west of the square in Tyler all the way to Palace is going to be high-end residential buildings,
Which doesn't make any sense to me. I mean,
well, we're about to get a big. We're about to get a big old factory. We're about to get the nursing school. We're going to make that slurry that goes into the super chips. There's a plant that's going in Taylor, Texas, and we actually.
that's almost Austin. They
Yeah,
have the best
but it's
barbecue in
by the
Texas.
rail. Yeah. It's
Louis Mueller's.
Yeah, Tyler is one of the last towns that has industrial rail frontage left.
Got it.
Yeah.
So they had to put the factory in Taylor and the chemical slurry unfun, factory in Tyler. I always think about the original Batman, that green green vat.
slime,
that's going to be the factory in Tyler. But we're doing it's a very important part because we have to start making super chips. Because like the story is 20 years ago, Steve Jobs went to Dell Computers, like, I got a new processing system. I need a super chip. They're like, you're dreaming. Try Taiwan. So he did.
And
and now
and
Taiwan
everybody
is
wants Taiwan.
ahead of the world by 20 years. That's why they own the street corner on these super chips. People are like, why does... It's because Steve Jobs went there 20 years ago because Dell had a bunch of bums working for him.
And his whole story arc started in a calligraphy class. It's like what are we doing? We had Dr. Louis Blom on. You haven't heard this because it hasn't been released, but you've got to listen to it. He speaks 3 or 4 languages or more. I don't know. We never got an actual number.
Wow.
He started at Afrikaans as his first language, and then like
English
Zulu.
is like his third language.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And like Zulu was like his second language or something. He's from South Africa, but his wife Sophia is a painter, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, you know all these languages, that has to change how you think because our language controls our thought. And and he's like, I met God in Afrikaans, I pray in Afrikaans, my Bible's in Afrikaans, I preached in Afrikaans, I went to college in Afrikaans. And I'm like, wow, so you pray in Afrikaans? And he goes, my wife doesn't pray in words, she paints. And I went,
okay.
I was like, Aaron Hinds. All I could think was like the stuff that you've done that I've seen, and this is maybe only the second one I've seen in person, right? Because I haven't been to your gallery. Like Travis held one up one time, and I was like, the Transfiguration of Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, did he bring that to church?
And I was like, what?
Yeah. That's a trippy time travel, like
how else could that have happened?
Yeah, like
how else could that have happened? It's not like
multidimensional
explained.
Space,
It's not like laid out. Like the Bible doesn't go. And then Jesus stepped out of time and
into
3 moments at the same time.
That was one of my favorites because I got the anamorphic, what's called an anamorphic lens flare.
Yes.
And I was like, nailed it.
Yeah.
You did nail it.
I got to do one of those again.
God, dude, like everything that you do.
Mind trip trying to do that, like flash. Like, how do you paint a stagnant flash? The anamorphic lens flare.
Well, that's interesting. Like, I look at this, and there's movement. Even though it's not moving, it's a still painting.
Yeah.
I just
it feels like an acid trip in church.
I get asked if I do psychedelic drugs all the time.
So, like, I would say that, yes. Like,
people don't even ask sometimes. They go, oh, ha ha, quoink, quoink. Well, like, me too, brother.
When you look at it, like, you think that. You're like, this person must have been on some sort of psychedelic. Or maybe that was the point of it. But, like, But it's not. That's a fleeting thing. That's like maybe the first reaction.
Yeah.
But if you look at it deeper, this thing is poetry does it no justice. This is like the Word of God level depiction stuff, you know? Like, and so I get excited. So like I got on Facebook and I tried to find Sophia's work, you know, and like she paints series, you know. I guess that's a thing in painting. You paint like you know,
pick collections and series.
and he said that she's painting right now like all of the birds in the Bible, you know? Like, what a wild undertaking. I didn't even know that there were, I knew there was doves, but like,
sparrows.
you know, but like, you know, but what language did the bird get translated into? Yeah, there's quail. But what a wild concept, you know, that he's like, she prays through her art. And then, you know, we heard a sermon the other day about personal ministry, and I was like, I don't have a personal ministry. I can't have a personal ministry. And then I was like, oh,
wait.
Yeah, well, here we
Yes,
are.
I do.
Here we are doing
just
it.
like sitting in a room. Like I've shaken your hand, or shook. I shook your hand a few times. Like we haven't ever had like a deep, long conversation. And like 10 minutes into you being here, church. I was like, we have to hang out. Like you got to come to the house because like we're, you know. And like Casey Parker, you know, like I didn't really know Casey super good, but like, you know, I've been to a man time with him, and
Steck called him Mini Jesus. Yeah. That's so funny.
Oh, dude, Steck is holy smokes, dude.
I'm gonna immortalize his name in fiction one day.
Yeah. Well,
I have a character list. Yeah. I just write down names.
Steck.
Bro, first name Steck.
If he was in a comic book or on a movie or a TV show, you could never refer to him as just Steck.
Yeah.
It would have to be Steck.
Yeah.
You know,
so ill.
But like I thought maybe Casey Parker was crazy. Yeah. And then like we put him down here and we get him on a microphone, and he's just a normal guy like me. You know? You are too. I see your art and I go, dude, I don't know. We're probably not even gonna be able to have a conversation with Aaron Hinds. You know, in my mind, I'm thinking this. I'm like, God, what are we doing? And I think I heard Pat earlier, you know, when I was walking around, he was like, man, every time, you know, like the week of, I'm like, oh, we gotta go record this podcast. And, dude, it's a lot of work. It
is.
I've been telling people I spend 7 hours a week on it, and my wife was like, it's at least 15. It's maybe 20.
Really?
And like it's a undertaking, you know?
Yeah. I mean, do you have any AI tools that you use? Okay, good.
Well, not really. I used some like in the beginning because I just had real scattered ideas, and so I just kind of brainstormed and I just vomited into a note on my iPhone. And then I copied the whole thing and put it into ChatGPT, and it was like, this is what you're wanting to do, you know? Yeah. But it's evolving as we go, you know?
I can't have it right about these, though. It would
right. Well, what would it say? Yeah, you know, like, I mean, like, hey, destroy.
What do we got here?
Destroy,
burn.
Speaking of which, have you seen AI art? It's so creepy, man. It
is creepy.
The amalgamate. I get a real feeling, and I'm like, well, I guess that's the point of art. But if you want to put creepy stuff on your wall, I guess that's for you.
Even like the AI art that's in videos that's supposed to be of like good things.
Yeah.
I even start
can't
feeling
even get
actually, to be honest, the art was the thing that turned me off of AI. Like I don't do ChatGPT. If I know that there's like AI on Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, I actively avoid using AI anything because of all the art that I've seen.
Right.
And the art that I've seen is something that it's
soulless, man.
There's no life to it. It's
dead.
There's moments where you look at it and you're like, wow, that is amazing detail, but there's no heart behind it.
But a computer did this.
Yeah.
And what does drive me crazy, there are people that try to take credit for it. Like, no, it's real. I did this over here.
You don't want to claim that, bro.
I see people that are drawing on a computer. I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's computer drawing.
Yeah.
But you are not putting an element onto another element. You know, you're not putting graphite on a paper or oil paints on a canvas. It's a totally different thing. Like, you know, maybe you work for Marvel one of these days, who knows, but it's but then again, I shy away from what is art, what is not art. I'm not gonna say what is art, what's not art. You know, technically car design, you know, designs are. I think Duchamp, you know, whenever he picked up a discarded urinal in like the early 1900s and walked it into his gallery and plopped it down and put a price on it. People were like, "What is that?"
What?
It's like, this is art. It's design. So he kind of blew. Anybody who does anything in the art world big always gets remembered. Mm-hmm. You know, and Duchamp was like, everything is art. He's the everything is art guy.
Yeah.
You know, so he was remembered. And, you know, that's what I'm hoping happens with these, you know.
Yeah. Well, they've definitely made an impact on me and a lot of people that I know that have seen it. And it's really amazing what the Holy Spirit's doing through you and with you.
I appreciate that.
You know.
The hard thing for you guys is you have a mountain to climb. You have to get to 60. Yeah, it is 60 episodes, 68 episodes, because I really believe in you guys. You know, and I really want this to happen so bad.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody says, you know, everybody starts out. I even tried to do a podcast one time.
Yeah.
It's not easy at all.
Not at all.
It's like it's hard, but it's fed me. It's
That's the
benefited me.
thing.
You
As
know,
long
like
as you're excited.
you know,
as long
so
as you're
yeah.
excited
I don't
about
even
it.
know if I'm excited about it anymore. I have to do it. I have to do it.
Okay.
You know, it's
Yeah, I
like
got you.
if I didn't have to do it,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it
Right.
because it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But like I have to. I don't have a block about it. It's like in my mind, I'm like, dude, I've got a family at home. Like I've got other stuff I'd rather do. I have 3 dogs, 2 kids, and a wife, and I love my house. We're painting our room. We're painting the whole thing blue. You know, it's like this trade ceiling. It's a mess. It's so much work. I love everything about my life, and I've got a lot of stressful stuff going on. But I have to be here. People have messaged me, grabbed me at church downstairs, and gone,
same.
"Hey, man, I hadn't been to church in 3 months, and I listened to your podcast, and I'm here today."
Yeah.
You know, or people that I didn't know even believed have gone like, "Hey, where do you go to church?"
Yeah.
And like, this podcast isn't like a wilderness thing.
Yeah.
Like, we're not associated with this, you know, and I think that's important.
But it is indicative of wilderness.
It happened because of the relationships that I've had and the experiences I've had here.
Yeah.
And it hit me. I'm like, dude, these guys need a place to tell their stories. And that's how God has spoken to me. You know, I've had some moments like some burning bush level stuff. And when I tell people about it, they go,
Right.
whoa, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I've always looked for some way to express the truth of what's going on. Like when I was in school and I was younger, I would go to church, I would go to youth group, and I would feel like this energy, this recharge, this connection with God.
Yeah.
And then I started doing drugs. And I couldn't feel it anymore.
There's a block.
You know what I mean? It cut me off, and
Yeah.
it was such a scary, dark place.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
responsible with those drugs.
and like, dude, we talked about sales. Like, I'm in sales, and I call people. I genuinely care about people, want to help people. And when I get them on the phone, you have just a window, just a 30 seconds, 10 seconds maybe, to like make a real connection with somebody. And it's hard. And people in the world it's dark.
Yeah.
You know, when I see somebody like you and I see your work, it like inspires me to like keep trying to make those connections with people, you know, because God told us the Great Commission. He said, "Hey, go and make disciples, you know, to the ends of the earth,
All
go."
the nations.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's not
We
like
tend to do the opposite.
you know, I don't like knock on the door and go, "Hey, you're going to hell," you know, like I don't think that that's it. And I think the fact that like the old gay dude, you know, like saw your work and was like, we have to have this. You know?
Yeah, he was
like
he was incensed.
like what you said earlier.
He tries to get
so
me to stop
punk
painting
rock
this all the time now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So punk rock, you know,
punk
like
rock.
it's
I tell people that they're like, "Why don't you
anti-disestablishmentarianism."
paint your birds again? Why don't you do your?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "It's not punk rock," and they're like, "No, it's not." Got me there. Yeah.
When you think about the podcast, I have to do it. It
Yeah.
is it. Like Travis's sermon, like, this is my personal
Some
ministry.
of the most megalomaniacal people on the earth are frustrated artists. You know, like if you have something, or just frustrated that you didn't pursue a creative or something that you like.
Yeah.
You have to pursue something
And
that you like.
I want to point out, like we've talked about it the last couple of times on the podcast. I think we talked about it with Troy, with Chance. There's a shift.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
there's a big shift going on right now because, you know, obviously
Louis talked
things
about it too.
about the election and everything
Yep.
like
Yeah.
that. And what Louis had said,
Which is huge. This is huge.
massive, is it's not what we're doing,
Yeah.
it's the harvest is ripe.
Yeah.
And
Maybe end times, baby.
whenever people are starting to look for avenues, like, you see a T-shirt with a bunch of amazing art on it, and it's dark and everything like that, and there's like zombies and vampires and all that, werewolves and all that kind of
Vampires
stuff.
are lame.
Yeah. Whenever you start to see that and you're hungry for something else,
Yeah.
like you want to look at something that's intricate, but not geared towards the darkness. That's kind of the way that I am. I don't like scary movies. I used to love scary movies.
Yeah.
I used to be into all of that kind of stuff. And now I
can't stand it.
And what's crazy is, my job, it's a little bit graphic and gruesome at times. But I'm not I don't know, I don't get to feeling funny about it. But if I see something on TV, I'm immediately whoa.
And plus, they're not scary anymore. It's torture porn. It's really weird.
That's all it is.
I'm very protective of my mind. I remember when my friends went and saw this movie called Faces of Death. Yeah. In which I guess it was a whole movie of people dying, meeting their end in vicious ways. I was like, guys, don't go see that.
Actually dying?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they took it out. It just hit the movie theaters. I guess it was
New York.
No, this was in College Station, and it was 96 or something, 1996. It was before I'd gone to Europe, and they came back traumatized.
Yeah.
And they took it out of the theaters very quickly.
Yeah.
Because it was
too much.
Literal people dying.
Well, because people can't handle this stuff.
It was video cameras of a convenience store, and you see somebody get shot in the head.
Yeah.
I don't watch scary movies for that. They used to be intriguing. The monster showed up at almost the very end or whatever.
Yeah.
But I get a little PTSD when I hear women screaming.
Definitely.
I grew up with 4 sisters, so the sound of female screaming is just
triggering,
untenable to me. It is just.
Well, have you toured the Holocaust Museum in D.C.?
Yeah, well, I went to the one. I went to
New York?
I went to Auschwitz in Germany.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude, you want to talk about sobbing? Because what they first do is they march you into this theater and they show you a hardcore Nazi, all of the experiments. They don't spare you at all.
Yeah.
Really?
I've heard that.
You see the needles, you see the cutting, you see the mental anguish, you just see the torture. It's a torture. And because they want you to be quiet.
Yeah.
They want you to be traumatized so you're not walking around the grounds and nobody starts cutting up. And I'm the class clown. I'm Mr. Cut Up.
Yeah.
Oh, that got me. We were all sobbing, we're in college, we're just, and that makes you just have the weight on you as you walk through, and then you stare at the ovens and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And how close it was to town, I've always wanted to read that book, Ordinary Men, but then that's no excuse. Especially since the Stanford experiments were shown to be BS.
Right.
And they knew that was there. That was just, Germany is a very powerful case study, and they still suffer from it. Mm-hmm. They are still super freaked out by it. I went to Oktoberfest in Munich one time, and it was a bunch of defending themselves. I'm like, hey guys, we don't think of you as horrible. You didn't live back then.
Right.
And he's like, but my grandfather did. I'm like, well, that was your grandfather. He was in a different time. It was tough. It was weird. It was weird. We're not having this right now.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about that.
Yeah, don't keep bringing it up.
We had our dark times too, slavery was on the rope, and Andrew Jackson brought it right back, and in force, even though I believe that the South was destroyed. Yes, they built up that area of the country and it was destroyed. Finally, we, the party that would become the Republican Party, the abolitionists, and then the Dixiecrats, that were all slave owners. How did we lose that propaganda battle?
Right. Yeah.
Dude,
propaganda was illegal then. It's legal now.
And you start to see
the population switched. The North, the abolitionist North, moved to the South to help them rebuild, and everybody was destroyed and had no more ways of making money. All had to move into the factories. So all those racist people in the South went north. Yeah. And then somehow it got conflated, and I do feel for the black community. They've been through a lot, and then I've never been black before, so I don't know how it feels. Yeah. And I feel like their wokeism got superseded by Marxism. I felt like they were legitimately saying, y'all, we ain't there yet, there's still some bad stuff here, and then it just got subverted, and then their message got lost. All of the original people from Black Lives Matter got pushed to even though that's a terrible slogan,
Yeah.
All lives matter, y'all. You can't just say that.
Yeah.
But there's still some, some leftover, some hangover. I don't know what it is. I won't allow it in front of me, but it's just, I just think it'll change. And I think the black community right now, I don't know how we got this, but is now saying, hey, don't baby me.
Yeah.
Just get out of my way. Don't stop hindering me. Don't baby me. Let me get this.
They're tired of.
They got it.
They're tired of the Drakes. They're tired of the Diddies.
Yeah.
They're tired of all the black colonizers that have infiltrated hip hop, who live elsewhere and then they go to Atlanta just to make money off of sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then they go back and do the thing.
I don't know anything about what we're talking about.
You don't know nothing.
Well, neither do I.
You do?
We can't empathize, and I think that's the problem. That it's just us looking in. It's a commentary.
Well, like anybody can be perceivably oppressed. And like if you look at what Germany did, Nazi Germany, like they systemized just genocide.
Yeah,
they systemized it and they documented it, videoed it, pictured it, studied wrote books about it.
Yeah.
And this is kind of an art episode, not to be cliche, because we've got a real artist here that's actually producing crazy. It's hard not to look at this. I can't. I wish we had a video podcast at this point already. I'm sure it'll get there sometime.
You need a camera.
But it makes me think about commercial art.
Yeah.
Not like commercials, but like if you go to Hobby Lobby,
Yeah.
you can buy a cow jumping over the moon,
Yeah.
a fish on a hook, or whatever, all these little prints, and I'm like looking at this and I was like, well, how do you scale this personal ministry that you're doing? Do you
I paint as much as I
license it
can.
and have prints go out, and like
I don't know.
We know
available on the website. Hinds.
I know a guy who knows a guy
Yeah.
that owns Hobby Lobby.
What?
So
Hobby
Dr.
Lobby
Blom,
dude?
Dr. Blom's friends with the guy that owns Hobby Lobby, the guy that lobbied, that sued the government.
Yeah.
He's
I know
one of his friends.
one of the artists that they sell prints at, Betty Felder.
Yeah.
She sold millions and millions of prints through there. So but I mean, it's overt. I know they're sort of like a Chick-fil-A, in that they're upper brass.
I'm telling you, dude, it's about to the
If
harvest
I
is
can
ripe.
get prints in the Hobby Lobby, please help me with that.
Well, I'm just saying, but
Make an
here's my
introduction.
question to you. Like, when I look at your real deal oil on canvas, you painted this thing, but it's moving. It's real. It's raw.
Yeah.
It's like it's a tangible thing.
It's
You
alive.
can touch it. You can feel the texture of the paint. The way
There's
it's
always been
prints
something
aren't like
about,
that. Prints
about
are just
an actual painting or an actual piece of sculpture. Something that you can just your eyes move around. I think that's why I put a lot in it, because I want your eyes to be just moving constantly. Like what about over here?
yeah.
This is over here.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that. Look at this tiny. Look at the detail. And there's I put a chalice in there. Christ likens himself to a cup that's poured out for the world, and so that's kind of become my signature. And I did not anticipate this happening, but it became a Where's Waldo game. Like people, because I'm sitting in my
Where's
gallery
Jesus?
and I see him like, there it is, I found it. And,
Yeah.
and I'm watching these people. Dang, it doesn't. But I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And they came to me, and then finally I realized at one time, because they brought me to a piece, and they're like, all right, where is it?
Yeah.
I can't find
Where's
it.
Jesus?
I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, the chalice that you have in every single one of these. We've been having fun hunting for it.
Yeah.
And it's in every single one of them.
Yeah.
But it's not in this one. And I'm like, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I think I forgot. I was so disappointed. They're like, what do you mean you forgot? This is your thing. And I'm like, well, actually, it was, no excuses. I need to pay a chalice. And I did. I went over. And you'll never see free people freaked out until you walk up to a gallery wall with paint and paintbrush and start painting on something.
Oh, no way.
People are like, and like, I'm the artist. All right.
It wasn't done yet.
I did this. I'm not defacing this. Like, I've had people tell me they've chose Tyler because of that gallery.
Really?
Yeah. Like, there are mobs of people moving to Texas.
Yeah.
You know, and Tyler, you know, was in that USA Today thing, you know, as top 5 town, you know. One of my friends was like, I went to this gallery and was like, okay, this is here. Yeah. Okay, people like this are here. Stuff like this is here.
Yeah. Right.
And Tyler does have, you know, East Texas has sent out some.
Well, dude, we had Elmos.
Stars.
We used to have Elmos.
I remember Elmos.
They
launched the Toadies.
Yeah, the
one of the best bands of all time.
I love the
ZZ
Toadies.
Top, one of the best bands of all time.
100%. I know a guy that like was around.
Oh, really?
That stuff, like the recording and things.
Okay,
like
they did all their recording here in the Rose Studio.
Yeah, 100%. They had a disagreement with a producer on that album. They sent him to get ribs from Country Tavern, and then they just laid it down the way they wanted to.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So I've heard some stories. Like, I've got a buddy, I think he's here in Tyler still, but like when Clapton kicks his tours off in Dallas, my buddy sources, he brings his own vintage amps. Because they don't ship them, you know. Like he'll drive them up there.
Yeah, you gotta have the tubes.
And so, like, I've been in his studio in Tyler. It was like in his house, and like, dude, sick, reel to reels, you know, like the real deal stuff, you know. If you've been in a band and you've recorded, like, you've probably recorded on some like old tape stuff.
Oh,
but
yeah.
like,
we used to have to record onto 2-inch tape, then bounce it to digital, then back to 2-inch tape.
But like the problem is you can saturate that magnetic tape with distortion and sound and depth, and it's like this.
Right.
Okay?
I appreciate that.
But digital, it's like a print.
Yes, exactly.
You just can't get the feeling.
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And so like we would record on those little 4-track Tascams, you know, and then we would like dump it to this computer that we had to buy on eBay because we couldn't just go to a store and get a computer that was powerful enough to do it. And then I would listen back to the music and I go, it's just not it.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'm stressed out. I look at this painting. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah. Then you go and look at it on Facebook. And it's not. It's
Facebook,
great on Facebook.
It's less crazy.
And, but it's like the gold paint. You don't see the gold paint in everything.
They do have a 3D function now. That was really trippy with one of my last pieces.
I saw that.
With the Old and the New Testament.
But then I was like, I can't zoom in.
I guess you can't.
Yeah.
But it looks trippy. But yeah, there is a degeneration. All hybrids are a degeneration. Yeah. You know, it's a fact of life. That's why evolution isn't real. Nebraskan man built around a pig tooth.
Yep.
Neanderthal man, rickets.
Yep.
Lucy,
Old
she was
lady
found over
with
20 miles underneath the glacier. This is just everything they bring up is a fact. And first of all, if that amount of time were to pass and that many generations, we should be standing on transitional species. We shouldn't have to look for them at all.
Yeah.
We should be able to dig a hole
Shouldn't even be
in our
asking
backyard
questions,
and find a transitional species.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, y'all. You know, please. I understand. You don't want God to be real. I get it.
Yeah.
But
man,
why not?
But do you have to? Well, because that's accountability.
Yeah.
You have to dethrone yourself.
You have to answer to a creator.
And then what you do matters.
Yeah, what you do matters in eternity. And people don't want to feel like they're going to be judged and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they just don't want it to be real. And a lot of the times church creates, you know, I'm not saying that church creates it, but people make the mistake of saying, this is disingenuous, because when you go to church and it's after church and you're having all these conversations and you're constantly getting cut short, a lot of people that didn't grow up in that, you know, feel offended. You know, I was having a deep conversation with the pastor or da-da-da-da, and somebody just busted in and shook his hand, and, you know, it happens about 100 different ways before and after a church service.
Yeah.
And that gets to a lot of people. Or they join the church and get into, you know, the elders and the brass, and they find out, oh my gosh, these are just a bunch of fallible humans that talk bad about each other. And, you know, oh, God's not real because these people are jerks, you know. And I'm like, so you're going to let those jerks live in your mind rent-free forever. And those jerks are going to say, no, you don't need to investigate God.
Yeah.
Because I'm a jerk.
Yeah.
and I exist in the church, and that's just, and it's just it's a non-thinking. It is a way out. It's lazy, It's just, I know a person that thinks, everything is everything,
Yeah,
all
what's
gods
that
are the
mean,
same thing. All
Yeah.
Buddha is just, and Allah and Jesus, they're all part of the same God, And I'm like, all of their investigatory power is on those other religions. They won't invent. They
will not open the Bible.
Will not open that
Yep.
Bible.
Yep.
They say they do, but they're all interested.
I talked to a buddy, and he goes, "Hey man, that stuff's not for me."
Yeah,
That's kind of his take. Like, I don't think he told me like God's not real.
Yeah.
I think he probably thinks that, but
Yeah.
But his take on it is, the more I learn,
Yeah.
the more I know that's not for me.
yeah,
And so
Crazy.
I'm like, so, but where's the knowledge? Where's the learning coming from? What's the source of the learning? The source of the learning is people and things that say God's not real, evolution's real, right?
Yeah.
And so I have a front row seat at my house where my wife, before I met her, had been to church 3 times or something in her life. Didn't have a church hurt, didn't know God, didn't get told God didn't exist, just had no
Wasn't a
experience,
thing.
didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Didn't know. And she's actively like going to lock-ins, coming to church, talking to women, praying, reading the Bible, going to conferences, actively looking for the truth, seeking the truth, And so in the Bible, it says like narrow is the path or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they mean is through Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they don't mean like you have to act just right. You have to go to a church that burns candles only, or you have to wear a robe. You have to splash water on your baby's head. That's not what it means, dude. It means that Jesus died for everybody.
Yeah.
For everybody, man. Like this dude that you've taken a stab at painting, this dude that nobody that's living on the earth today has physically seen. There wasn't cameras.
Right. That's why I don't paint him as Calvin Klein Jesus.
Yeah.
And he's ethnic, and he looks different every time I paint him. That's why I love it. Like, thank goodness isn't coming out as supermodel Jesus. I've had a bunch of different people come to be like, "Yo, thanks for making him like a colored dude, like a Middle Eastern dude."
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he spoke Aramaic. Like what? He grew up in Egypt. Like what did we think that
And
he
he
was
was
going to
probably
look like?
outside working a lot.
100%.
Probably worked under the sun. He was probably a melanin-rich human being.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all. But I understand the medieval painters. They had to sell paintings too, and they had to make this Middle Eastern man poppable for Europe and
locals.
Europeans.
Well, it's such an interesting thing, right?
But we got hooked on it, and now he's got this look. He's like this
there's a
good-looking
Jesus look.
guy. When Isaiah says very clearly, he is
Not much to look at.
Not much to look at. And he's talking about him like he saw him last week,
Right.
800 years before he was born.
Yeah.
That's the trippy thing about Isaiah.
And maybe he did.
Maybe he did. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Maybe he
Isaiah,
did.
when he said I'm undone, when he said he realized his lips were unclean, and he was in the temple in the robe. I've done this one before. It's trippy. I need to do it again. The robe of the angel of the Lord filled the entire place, and he said, "I'm undone." I think he disassociated. Probably went to another dimension. It's been an absolute education. I always tell people it's something that I can't wait to happen, see where this goes. I ask God all the time, "Hey, can I be part of this revival?
Yeah.
Can this be something huge?"
Well, that's what I was going to ask
be
you.
a tiny part of it.
Where do you get your direction and how do you pray? Because like everything meaningful that I've done, I've gone, "Okay, God, I'm done. I'm out of ideas. Just tell me what to do."
I heard recently that I can't remember where I heard it, but it was very astute. And the guy said, when you pray, it goes into a bowl, a sacrifice. That's what those beasts in the throne room are holding. Yeah. They are holding a bowl full with your verbal sacrifices, with your audible sacrifices. When you sing songs at church, that's a sacrifice that goes into that bowl, and it is part of the proceedings of this unimaginable court full of beasts and aliens and interdimensional entities from elsewhere. That's my theory on aliens.
That
they're avatars.
I'm with you.
I think the aliens that we see, the grays and the greens, I think those are avatars for spirits that don't have enough power to exist in 3 dimensions.
Well, we've been seeing. I saw a thing. I think I sent it to Pat, and it was like this guy that was like, "Hey, everybody that has an abduction story is a
believer." Yeah.
Is
no Christians.
Like they've done the research on it.
No Christians
have
ever
we got an entourage.
abducted.
Do not.
But
mess
if you
with
say
this.
the name Jesus,
it's
They leave.
over.
Yeah.
100%.
so they're demons,
Yeah.
or angels, or something.
Well,
Yeah.
they're existing in a physical avatar.
Yeah.
It is meant to be a trick.
I agree
so
with
that
that.
whenever a government produces what we would call the beast, they're going to call an alien.
Yeah.
So they're going to say, look, guys, see, these are aliens. They're seeded
friends.
our society. So everybody who believes in stuff, you're cute and stuff, but you're mentally deranged. And if you don't renounce your religion, we're going to have to put you in jail.
Yeah.
Because you're technically crazy.
Yeah.
Because we've presented you with truth. This is an alien.
Yeah.
This is from outer space.
Yeah.
This is where
Let's
humans
follow the science.
Follow. I am science. Like, listen to this. And people, whenever Trump got nicked in the ear, they're like, "Oh no, is he the beast?" I was like, first of all, the beast is a non-human entity.
Yeah.
And he suffers a serious head wound.
Yes. Yeah,
But
death.
Here's the thing that's going to make me unpopular. Trump actually lines up a lot with the peacemaker.
The peacemaker
says, "Beware the peacemaker, for he will make way for the beast."
Oh yeah, I believe it.
I drew, as part of my comics, way when I was a kid, I drew an entity of the peacemaker, and he was a businessman. It looked a lot like Trump. I don't want to say this, but I don't say this often, and I don't believe it, of course. But it's kind of weird. It's kind of uncanny, and he does achieve peace in the Middle East.
Yeah,
I mean he's already done something biblically, moved the capital back to Jerusalem. So I'm like, oh no, what if he's the peacemaker?
Well, look, I've got
and he's holding the Bible like he's never holding it, 2 Corinthians. I'm like, this guy's never cracked the Bible. He's never been to church. Like, I did not appreciate the lip service. But
I feel you.
I think Trump's a believer now because that tiny little head twitch.
Yeah.
I think that got him thinking.
I will always have a state of suspicion just because of my upbringing.
Absolutely, and you should. And I truly believe in the separation of church and state. That can get ugly. We have to learn from the Inquisition. You know?
Definitely.
Never do that again.
Yeah.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that schools can't pray or the name of God can't be in our Pledge of Allegiance. This or that. People are like separation of church and state. I'm like, come on.
All right.
That's not what.
You're not separating your church from
We're talking
our
about
state.
A tyrannical religion that owns the government.
Well, hey, dude, the first 13 states, they had a requirement of a public profession of faith.
Very true. Very true.
And
they didn't call them Puritans for nothing.
And only one of those states was Catholic.
Right.
Like,
they were still killing each other back then.
They were still.
That's probably what they were running for.
Catholics are still killing each other in Ireland. I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was called the God of Catholic. I've been into the Vatican one time, and I got to tell you, gave me the creeps.
Really?
Until I went to the Sistine Chapel, I'm like, okay, I'm in Michelangelo's world now. He is a devout man, and he did this right, and this is beautiful, and this is classic. But everywhere else, heck no. The first thing, the grounds, you see a giant pine cone, which is, ancient pagan fertility thing, and right to the left of Peter's chapel, where Peter is buried, is this giant marble skeleton with this giant marble cloak. It's insane. It's amazing. They never show pictures of it. I have pictures of it in my little photo albums that people used to have back in the olden days.
Yeah.
And he's got this hourglass holding it up, and it's just about as creepy as it gets. And then that big throne room that they have with the I got Catholic friends. I ain't trying to
huge thing.
whatever that.
Whatever that chaos is going on behind the Pope.
But it's creepy as F, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, no.
I didn't. Walking through the Vatican, I was like, this is strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Religion, C.S. Lewis said it the best. Religion is man-made and destined for failure, but God is forever.
Yeah.
That's such a double back. Nobody knows what to do with that statement. I don't even. I mean, I'm a believer.
Well,
I barely know
he
what to
and
do with it.
Tolkien were like buddies.
Oh well,
you know?
Tolkien was the one that kind of
Critiqued him.
led him into the thing.
Yeah.
Led him into the faith. Let him know that they not all believers are just a bunch of boneheads. That these are actually thoughtful, friendly people that will.
I saw a movie that I fell asleep during. So, just to give you an idea.
Was it about Tolkien?
It was about C.S. Lewis.
Oh yeah,
Talking with Sigmund Freud.
Oh, okay.
Like at the end of Sigmund Freud's life.
Sigmund was a sick dude.
And I believe that it was biopic, like it was probably historical fiction, or I mean, it happened, but I don't know if we know what they said to each other, but he was trying to get through.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Freud did good stuff. He was the first one to suggest that we could talk out our problems and come to a solution instead of killing each other. Because duels were very prevalent. If you had a problem, you did not talk it out. You went out and aimed guns at each other. Even though he was a sadistic dude to his, to Anna, his, I believe, stepdaughter. But, there is value in extemporaneous things like that.
Well, the interesting thing to me is psychiatry, psychology, in modern time now, today. If you go to a psychiatrist, they listen to you, they tell you your problem, they give you a medicine. Okay? You go to a psychologist, they talk to you, you tell them your problems, they tell you your problem, and they set you on your course. You go to a counselor, you go to them, you tell them your problem, they talk to you, and they help you try to solve your problem, but they don't tell you what your problem is.
Yeah.
Psychologists and psychiatrists do that.
Right.
What's interesting is like the idea that you could help yourself or that other people could help you. It's biblical. God says, confess your sins to each other and to me and pray. Okay? But this idea of like, I feel this way or I think this way, and I try to talk to people and we're going to try to figure it out. We're going to itemize it. We're going to categorize it. We're going to file it away. We're going to study it. But like, to me, moral psychology makes sense. That's what we want to get away from. That's what all the people don't want. They don't want responsibility. They don't want morality. They want ethics. They don't want morality, right? Morality is because all the laws that we agree about that we know are true came from God. They didn't come from man. We didn't create what this is ethical to do this or not ethical to do this. And so for me, what's helped me in my walk and my struggles is moral psychology. It's like no matter how I feel or what I think, I'll do the right thing.
Yeah.
Even if it's uncomfortable. And I heard a clip the other day, and this guy was like, the best lesson my father taught me. He's like, he got in a fight in school because some kid was getting beat up or something. And he stopped it, ended it, put the bully on the ground.
Nice.
And got suspended. And so, he got home, and he was like, are you proud of me? And his dad was like, yeah. And he was like, but you're grounded. And he's like, what do you mean? I did the right thing. And he goes, you did the right thing, but it has consequences. And sometimes it's going to have the hardest consequences. And you need to learn that now. Like just doing the right thing's not good enough. You have to take the medicine. So I think a lot about moral psychology and moral authority. If Travis Wright tells me something that he's had experience with, like he has the moral authority to pastor me. Because I accept
I've given him that role.
I accept that.
And that was tough for me. I never had a pastor that was younger than me. I was like, man.
Well, you're just getting old.
I know. And then I had to come to the realization that Aaron, everyone's younger than you now. And it's just going to
You don't present as like old. You know?
Yeah, no.
No, I don't. So I probably because I'd never been married and never had kids. I'm going to turn 50 this year. I decided I'm going to, my only affordable midlife crisis is join a gym. I was like, I'm going to join a gym and get buff. Never been buff. I hate gyms.
Yeah.
I like
That's a good
boxing
choice,
gym.
though.
I've taken boxing many times. That'll cut you out of stone, and make you lethal.
That's true.
I can throw these things.
I feel you. Yeah.
I've been in some knockdown drag-outs, only in New York, though.
Really?
Like, because I used to check IDs. And, I knew all about it. I was kind of the bouncer's guy, but I wasn't a bouncer. I'm not big enough. I'm big enough to toss you out, but to a drunk person, I'm not intimidating enough.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
But, like, one time, for all these waiters, they were, like, from Kazakhstan. They come in, and they get drunk and they start grabbing females. And I'm like, hey, you guys have to go now. And he smashes this bottle, and right before he waves at me, I just crack him. You know, he goes down, but there's
ultra instinct.
I smoke him immediately. I do not wait for that bottle to get into position. He gets cracked. Down he goes, but he's got, there's 7 of these guys. Yeah. So they all swamp me, but this is a locals bar. Yeah. So locals are just waiting for a fight to break out. For it, yeah. So we freaking snatch these dudes up. And we freaking smack them and punch them and kick them towards the door, and we get them all out. But right before the door closes, I had long hair back then. I was the lead singer of a rock band. He grabs my hair, yanks me out the door. 2 of the guys bar the door so the people can't get out, and it's 5-on-1. Yeah. And this dude's got my hair, so my head is sideways, and he's just trying to yank my scalp off, and these guys are just punching me. When you get punched in the face, there's a white light. It goes pling, pling, pling.
Every time.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yep, the flash.
Yeah, the flash. So I'm like, I'm not going to last very long. And I had a stroke of genius. I was like, I'm going to march these dudes into oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
See who's strong then.
Yeah.
You know, because we were on 9th Avenue. Cars used to just fly down there. And I freaking turned my body sideways, and it was like a football sled. I was just mushing them out there. Cars sliding. They were peeling off of me, and everybody, like, this pandemonium.
Yeah.
And finally, my friends get out. They ended up chasing them down the block. It was just insane, dude. The next day, a couple of my friends, 7 and Omar, you know, they're like, "What happened to you, bro?" Yeah. I get adopted everywhere I go. I don't know why it is. I think it's just I'm friendly and I love people. I genuinely love people. I love everyone. The more ridiculous you are, the more I like you.
I think that's why we can hit it off.
Yeah. Like my only friends growing up were the outcasts where I beat up their bully. Yeah. You know, I like that's, you know, but yeah, 7 or what happened? You know, they marched right into the kitchen of this restaurant. And I'm like, get that guy. He was here. You know. Yeah. Freaking yanked the manager out. And, you know, he was like, I left. Remember, I was maybe da-da-da-da. And I was like, trying to remember. You know, slapping hands, getting itchy. Yeah. Getting anxious. Was to slap. You know, but New York was such a trip. My gosh. Yeah. But yeah, I've never been in little fights when you're in grade school and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, real man fights, scary. I only lost one time because it was my fault. Yeah. I was just having a mean time. It was like end of the shift, probably 4 a.m. People were passing. I'm out there smoking a cigarette, mean mugging everybody. Mm-hmm. Finally, one dude's like, "What you looking at?" And I flick my cigarette at him, and he flinches, and I got him. I'm on top of him. I'm about to crack this dude. Yeah. Like, wrong, right? Yeah. This is bad Aaron. Bad Aaron. Yeah, I've never started a fight in my life. Yeah. The first one I start, and I'm about to just regulate, and then I get cracked. You know, there was 2 people right in front of him that were his
saw
friends.
It.
And I get instantaneous lights out. And luckily, thank you, Lord, they didn't curb stomp me because they could. Yeah. You know, I woke up Indian style with just, you know, sitting in the sidewalk in New York. You know, a little bit of blood and just people walking all around. I'm just Indian style facing the street like I'm, you know, in Mantra or something like that. So dumb.
Well, this has been fun.
And on a fight story?
We're like, what, 3 hours in?
I love these formats, and I truly hope you guys make it really far, and this becomes like your living. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, maybe you know, like
I know them.
Glory to God on this deal. Like I'm telling you, I have to do this. And we're gonna have to have you back, dude, because this is. Absolutely. I can tell that you've got like 1,000.
I'll be honest with you.
I got so many stories that I've forgotten more stories.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think you're gonna have to edit much. You just need to play the whole thing. Just let it roll. Just let it roll.
It's pretty clean. I'll take a couple coughs out. Yeah, what a great deal, dude.
This has been
Thank you so much for coming and bringing your art.
And
having me on.
So
let's plug your stuff.
Your Facebook.
Facebook is Aaron Hinds.
Instagram.
Instagram is, I think it's still Hinds Art Gallery.
Okay.
The website
Hinds.
Hinds. Yeah, the Welsh and Irish spelling.
TikTok.
TikTok is Aaron Hinds. Art, I believe. Dang, I don't know any of these things. I was on TikTok pretty strong. I was like, I'm going to do this TikTok thing, you know. I had this Xers, you know. I'm Generation X, right? And a lot is being made out of us.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess people aren't aggressive. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny, those videos. Don't mess with a generation. And that's true. Because we will hit you.
Yeah.
You know, in the face.
Yeah.
If you piss us off too bad. I'm
Clearly.
I'm over that. I'm over that. I'm an adult now. And you can't get into man fights. Man fights too dangerous.
Yeah.
So the gallery, does it have hours? Is it open yet or no?
Not yet. It's at 119 West Ferguson in Tyler, Texas on the square. I'm working I was there till 8 o'clock just sanding sheetrock with a palm sander. Bah! Just creating a tornado.
Yeah.
But it's looking good. I think we're probably 3 weeks out, you know, maybe a month.
Okay.
That's
I'm
big.
Not sure, yeah.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have a big party.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm there.
We're gonna have
coming.
to advertise it here at the church, and because this church actually was my beta test. Like I was scared. I was like, because the images were coming out so wild.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, this may be too wild. You know, people may start squinting or looking at it sideways, and then Travis like, try it at the church, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say wilderness is probably a soft landing for it,
Yeah,
though. You know, because like we're like real people here.
There were wilderness is like this is not like any other church, you know, that I've ever been to, and it's just because of the people, you know. Like I said, it's the church for the church cast-offs, you know.
Yeah.
If they start looking at you sideways in the church that you're at, you know, because you don't feel like dressing up to the nines every single time, you know. I like dressing up. I like fashion, but you know, sometimes. Even when I go to church, you know, I start like, what are these people thinking of me? Even though I usually don't care, but this is the church where that feeling is abated.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like these are regular folks, and I think small churches is the way to go. Period.
Got it. Yeah.
You know, I think you can get involved more. You're gonna make better friends and relationships and. You're going to have actual people that you can call and be like, hey, can you help me do this?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
You know, can you help me change my alternator?
Yeah.
You know, there's like, these are like the dude. I want Tyler to have this becoming this, you know, we need to have an awesome music scene here. We need to have an awesome fashion scene here. You know, we need to have an awesome art scene, shopping, restaurants. You know, this used to be the gym of East Texas because we're perfectly positioned between Dallas and New Orleans.
Yeah.
On 20. That's where the closest. That's how that's why there's pictures of Clark Gable sitting at the pool.
You talking about Shreveport?
Shreveport.
Yeah.
You get to New Orleans. That's the way you go to New Orleans. That's where all the tour. You know,
unless you're in Houston, then you take I-10.
Yeah, and Houston. We're like we're northeast, southwest. We're like this perfectly positioned town. And I hear people all the time, this could be so cool. It just needs to have a music venue that's solely a music venue.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you felt being in a band. I hated going to like restaurants or bars and just like, I felt like I was interrupting everybody's conversation.
Dinner.
And, like, I want these people to be here because they want to see
nobody wanted to hear our music, bro. Nah. It was like you know, metal-ish.
Yeah. Whenever the metal starts, the girls just wilt, you know.
Yeah. It's like fast cars, you know. Girls are like, that's. You know, I've struggled in my life being fascinated with stuff that girls don't care about.
Oh yeah, well because we're dudes, we're interested in things. They're interested in people.
Yeah,
you know that's just the biggest disconnect. You know, it makes it. We don't want to see the same movies. We don't want to listen to the same music. We don't want to hang out at the same places. You know, we're just diametrically opposed to one another. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like props to anybody who can make a marriage work. Like wow.
Yeah.
Like that is. I don't like how I am in relationships. I'm just like.
Yeah, I don't even like me most of the time.
Yeah, I'm like I cannot do anything right. Like it seems like.
Well, what about your website? What is your website?
The website is Hinds Art Gallery. Can we look it up?
Aaron Hinds.
I'm the worst self-promoter that has ever lived.
It's a good trade. It's okay.
Yeah, but they make sweet hoodies on there. They have all over prints. HindsArtGallery.com, I think is what it's called. I do everything backwards. I did a piece for 9/11, and it ended up in the Museum of the City of New York.
Oh,
it's
wow.
still there.
You're not even going to bring that up in the podcast, bro?
Yeah, wow, there's too much.
Sick.
There's too much. How am I supposed to do it? Like, I spent 3 days on the West Side Highway painting, and it was a sob fest. I met up with every single municipality.
That's right. Hinds Art Gallery.
Hinds Art. I got it. Nice.
.com.
And so you're not supposed to have a self-titled gallery until you're famous.
Yeah.
But
you do it backwards.
Turns out if you just rent a space and put your name on the window, you got a self-titled gallery.
And speaking of self-titled galleries, have a new gallery. I've decided to create an art collective. That way it's not just me. It's called Tyler Fine Art Gallery. We're going to be opening in March. Oh, right on. It is at 119 West Ferguson Street, downtown Tyler, Texas. So the Lord closed the door, but he definitely opened that window. I mean, not only that, he gave me all the lumber that I needed was there. All the trim wood that I needed was there. It's a better location, so I'm excited. Y'all look for the invites. Y'all look for Facebook and Instagram announcements. It's Tyler Fine Art Gallery on Instagram. That's where we do most of our publications. Hope Tyler shows up for it. Yeah, go to HindsArtGallery.com and get a print or a hoodie or... Oh, the hoodies are cool. I mean, the prints are beautiful. Yeah, they're all over print. It's not like a little picture. That's what I liked about it. I always tell people... be prepared to talk about Jesus because these get noticed. People are like, what am I looking at here? Mm-hmm. Like, what is happening on your hoodie? And you can start in, wow, this is eyewitness accounts of raw power exiting the first alien that visited the earth. Turns out it was the creator of the earth. 119 West Ferguson Street. It's a kind of kitty corner to Fitzpatrick Architects. Across college from the federal courthouse. Awesome. Whoa. Yeah, it's just an incredible location. God was like, we're going to shut this down, but I got something else for you. It's probably going to be better. Well, it's wild to me because I've got a personal connection because my grandmother managed the shoe store that was in that location for years and years. It's such a small world story. And that sucker was built in the late 1800s as a shoe store. It was originally a shoe store. Wow. But yeah, man, that's like Civil War times. Yeah, absolutely. We're walking on the original floor. I'm staring at the original printed tin ceilings, and just every now and then I imagine, people getting out of their buggies, and walking in with their top hats and hoop skirts. Of course, this is East Texas, but yeah, everybody dressed to the nines back then. And Tyler was founded by the owners of the wells that were found in Gilmer. In Kilgore, so, this was a well-to-do town. Absolutely, we're so glad to have had you on the podcast, and I'm lucky to call you a buddy and go to church with you. Bro. And it's super cool that you're actively working to advance the kingdom, but also like Tyler's lucky to have you to be trying to put together a gallery, something like this to try to elevate Tyler. Well, Tyler's got awesome folks. I said earlier in the podcast that I like to hang out with regular folks. Everyone is extraordinary, right? And we go to this church because it's got extraordinary people and an extraordinary pastor. I mean, Travis is unparalleled. Yeah, someone who's just absolutely genuine, draws people to him, and I just really like the church. I love the people of Tyler. I mean, we're a good bunch. We're just a good group. We're a tight-knit group, and it's going to be one of the last bastions of Christian thought, Christian idealism. If it ever comes down to it, I don't have to worry about Tyler. We're going to be solid, and we're not going to be stuffy and weird. We're going to, we are the counterculture now. We're friendly, and we're absolutely. Oh, absolutely, thanks. And you're the spearhead. Yeah, man, this is Tyler's growing up. We're about to reach some other plateau. I hate it when people say we're going to be a mini Austin. It's like, no, we're not. Freaking, yeah. Austin got it wrong. We are going to be East Texas is just going to mean something else from now on.
it's going to be the center of arts and culture for this area of Texas, and I aim to be a part of that.
I love it. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. And
thanks, man. I appreciate you. We'll see you on Sunday.
We'll definitely have you back on soon.